Secure your tinfoil hats, buckle down tight, and hold on loosely as we soar over the rocky tops of the La Platas on a Rocky Mountain high. Get sucked into the vortex of the Four Corners and settle down snugly at mile marker 420 in colorful Colorado. It is Saturday, September 28th, Sunday, September 29th for those of you on the East Coast and beyond, actually across the pond, because we're earlier now. Welcome to We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. Hope you had a rockin' week, an awesome beginning to your weekend. I am your host, TessaTNT, and we are live tonight on Spreaker, Periscope, Twitter, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, CastBox, Tumblr, YouTube, SoundCloud, and TuneIn Radio. So tonight I have a treat for all my guys and gals out there. Tonight we will be talking to and getting to know Mr. Chris Chappell from Dark Hunters Paranormal. And Chris has been into the paranormal and believed ever since he was 13 years old. He is the owner with his wife Melissa of Dark Hunters Paranormal Group, where they take guests to historic landmarks across the U.S. for an exclusive overnight investigation. They specialize in getting to places that have not been overrun with paranormal groups for the mystique of it. Chris is a huge tattoo fan and enthusiast as well, and is always trying to learn more about the outer world. Check out their events at thedarkhuntersparanormal.com, where you can see their upcoming events. Hey Chris, welcome to the show. So great to have you.
Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure talking to you, Tessa.
I know, and I know we had some issues earlier in the month, and I was so sad that I didn't get to have you on, but I'm so glad that we got to reschedule you so quickly and get you in here, because I really do love hanging out with you and hearing your stories and sharing them with our listeners for sure.
Oh, definitely. Absolutely.
So how did you first get into the paranormal? Did you have some experiences in your childhood? What led you and your wife on this path of paranormal investigation?
Well, first of all, I've known my wife since sophomore year of high school. So we've actually known each other 20 plus years. And so we didn't start, I've been probably in the paranormal for about 15 years, but I actually believed when I was younger, like you said in the intro, at 13 years old, basically, I mean, I had probably the greatest, if you're a paranormal enthusiast, probably the greatest, vision that you could see, which is, a full body apparition, of my step-grandfather at the time. And I actually got it premonition, as some people would call it, where you see something before or after it happens. And so I seen my step-grandfather, and he had said, "Hello, Chris, I'm telling you goodbye." And then he walked out. And so when he walked out, that was all I seen of him. And at the time, it looked like a, legitimate person, but you couldn't touch him. Well, that next day, come to find out, we were told as kids that he had a heart attack. And as we got older, he actually committed suicide that same night. So I actually seen him after it had happened. So ever since then, I've been fascinated with, anything paranormal. And if you don't mind, my actual interpretation of paranormal is a lot different than some other people's, where, a lot of people, when they say paranormal, they think, automatically jumps to ghosts and spirits. One thing that really agitates me is, when I go on an investigation, or when I see an investigation, especially on TV and stuff, it's like they always go to that, oh, a ghost touched me or a spirit touched me. The definition of paranormal is something that is not normal, things that we cannot explain. And so for me, that's why I'm so fascinated with it, because when I see something that I can't explain, or a skeptic comes by and can't explain, it's very fascinating for me. And so, yeah, I mean, that's really why I'm in it, and I love it. I love just doing it on the side. Everybody that follows our Facebook knows I'm a truck driver during the week, and I do a lot of my live videos while I'm at work. because it's really the only time I have time. And so if you ever get a chance, go to our Facebook page. Some of my videos are pretty informative and also funny, and we also like to promote other groups on our page. It's one of our big things.
That's awesome. Like, I love para-unity and working together and being able to propel each other and share each other's experiences and knowledge, because like I said before, there's so many different stories out there. You can't really pin one thing down to one certain thing. Like, every time it's a different story and different things that one needs to do. So I'm always curious when it comes to suicide, why certain people do that. Do you think your grandpa was really sick and he just didn't want to go through the health thing, or he just kind of had enough of this world?
There was a lot of stuff going on between him and his wife at the time, my step grandma, and they were separated. He was sleeping at the place he owned, his work, and I don't like to, and that's just me. I don't, because I do deal with PTSD from the military, so it's something that I do struggle with as well. So I don't like to get into somebody's mind and find out why they did it, because I hate to put answers. But for me, maybe he was going through a really tough time and just thought that was the best way out. Unfortunately, we have I get real I hate this. I don't want this show to sound off like I'm getting negative, but I see on Facebook, because like I said, I do deal with a lot of veterans that are going through the same thing that I'm going through, or just even people that aren't veterans that go through, thoughts of suicide and stuff like that. I see a lot of people that don't have any clue about it, on Facebook or social media saying, here's the 1-800 number, call this number if you're having problems. And that's great and all. I'm glad that we have that resource. But if you've ever used that number, it's complete and utter BS. And I'm sorry if that offends somebody, but it really is. For somebody that's dealt with it for years now, for me, I understand that it's an outlet for people, but it's just not. It doesn't help. There's other things that I think we need to focus on to help people that are going through stuff like that.
It is really difficult. I'm a veteran as well, and you do go through the PTSD and the thoughts of suicide, and I actually will admit that I have tried, and the third time was a charm. Like, the third time when the rope snapped or whatever, like, I just decided I'm meant to be here for a reason. And I now realize later on, once you get past that darkness and such, that, I'm here to help other people and help them through their issues, whether it's paranormal or not. And I've had friends that have taken their own lives. And so, having those numbers, because sometimes they'll call friends and they'll go to friends' houses and try all kinds of things and nobody's there. And so maybe that might be some last-ditch effort. But I do agree with you that it's not the end-all be-all of things. I'm grateful that they do have those things, but like you said, it's not perfect as it should be, as far as helping veterans and even people on the police force. There's people that are taking their own lives all the time, and just random people throughout the world that just feel like there's not a lot to live for. But I kind of look at it as if life is a gift and it should be treated as such, because there's a lot of people, that we love that have been taken from us at early ages that were such good people, but then you see the assholes of the world just living forever. Like, how does that even happen? It seems unfair, but I think there's a plan for all of us, and, everything does happen for a reason. It's difficult to deal with, but thank you so much for your service. What branch did you serve in?
U.S. Navy. Thanks for yours as well.
Nice. Did you get to visit any outer realms outside of the United States, take some floats and such?
Oh, absolutely. I'm actually a golden shellback, which is, kind of rare. So a golden shellback is basically you cross the equator at exactly 180 degrees. And in the military or in the Navy, when you are a shellback, when you just cross the equator, that denotes you being a shellback. You do little fun hazing things on the ship. You rub coffee in the shellback's hair. It's just fun stuff, You know what I'm talking about. You were in the military. Just, nothing harmful. Just good old-fashioned day of fun where you just kind of let people earn their colors type stuff. Well, it ended up being like a 2-day thing for the golden shellback. So it was really cool. So I went to Australia, Perth and Hobart, and spent some time in Bahrain and Dubai. And then that's really the only places I had the opportunity to go overseas. And then, I spent a lot of time in dry docks up in Washington State where I was stationed in the CVN-72 USS Abraham Lincoln.
So when you were overseas, did you ever have any paranormal experiences?
Let's see. I honestly can't remember it, to that extent, anything that would really, trigger a very profound memory of anything paranormal. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that happened that just didn't, really register in my head, only because you're always doing something. I mean, when you're on the ship, you work all the time. You work, you sleep, you eat. That you don't really have time to do or think about anything else because you're always doing something. If you're not standing watch, if you're not, working 12, 14-hour days, you're sleeping. You're trying to, So, to be honest with you, I can't think of anything off the top of my head that I remember while I was in the service. Now, I will say that I've always wanted to go do, an aircraft carrier, a battleship. And I know there's one in North Carolina, one down in Alabama that they have that is docked that you can do. I just haven't got around to doing it yet.
Yeah, life keeps you so busy. And like we were talking about right before the show, it's awesome to be able to go out and do the fun hunts, just kind of for shits and giggles and, just doing your own hunt. But then you get busy with these certain jobs where you do, like you said, personal investigations. And once you start doing those, it's really hard to just get out and do a case on your own as a group instead of doing it for somebody else. I love doing it, but it kind of takes away the fun and excitement because you're on the job and you're all business. So that would be totally cool to go on a dry dock ship or whatnot, or even I believe it's the Queen Mary in California. That one's supposedly very haunted. And I've had a few friends send me pictures, and do you see anything in here? And I wish I had the picture on hand. It's actually on my old phone I murdered, taking sunrise pictures out my window coming back from overnight security. And, it flew, and then I ran down to get it, and right as I got there, 5 cars in a row ran over it. But there was different figures in there. There was a woman who was kind of tucked up against the wall, and she looked very afraid, and there was a man in this sort of top hat at the end of the hallway, and it looked like he was looking for her. And it just makes me wonder about the spirit world. It's such a different realm, and so many different things happening, and I don't think we'll know all the answers anytime soon, but it is interesting to find little bits and pieces of it.
Absolutely, for sure. And kind of going back to the suicide thing, I hate to keep going negative, but
no worries.
This is kind of switches it. Is suicide is something that happens because somebody's just doesn't want to be here anymore. They think nobody cares about them, and it's just too much to take and stuff. And if you look at it, if you believe in the interdimensions and that, our spirit is always alive even after we're dead, and you believe in the paranormal, ghosts and spirits and stuff, suicide is one of the more caught between dimensions. If you see what I'm saying, like it's like, because they say, if you're religious, that suicide is definitely, one of the major sins that'll put you in hell. But right. On the same token, nobody really knows, in my opinion, nobody really knows that answer until our time comes, right? So nobody really knows what happens afterwards until it actually happens. All we can do is, make hypotheses and guesses. But to my thoughts and my opinion is somebody that commits, suicide is still kind of in that, I guess you would call it like a limbo. Sometimes when we go and do investigations and we do see, apparitions or spirits, or something paranormal, we think there's a reason why that spirit is where it is, so.
Well, it's interesting.
To all the people out there listening, I just wanted to tell everybody, I am from Chicago originally. So if you know anybody from the North, and so a lot of times when I'm talking, I say, a lot, like I'm from like Minnesota, like,
right.
so I apologize if that gets on your nerves. Yeah. Don't you know?
Don't you know?
So there's that, but I just kind of wanted to touch base on that as my opinion about that. And that's no disrespect to anybody that, has unfortunately lost somebody to suicide, because it is a horrific thing to go through, as I have went through it, multiple times with friends, military friends, family members. So, and it's something like you said, as a military vet, something we deal with in our own mind sometimes. So.
Yeah, and it's funny that you were talking about different investigations and such, and one of my most favorite investigations was at the Durango and Silverton Railroad Station, and they have a plethora of ghosts down there, so much activity, and one of them being one of the first ones I ever met there, and they used to refer to her as Emmy, which there is a ghost there named Emmy, but she's a little girl. Did I send you those pictures last time you were on my show? If not, I'll send them to you.
No, I don't think so. I think we got so tied up in all different kinds of conversations that we just forgot. So yeah, definitely send me those. That'd be great.
So we went in there for a preliminary investigation, and this is early in the morning, and I am not an early bird. Like, I'm a night owl, and I'll sleep as late as I can, and then I'll get up and I'll, try to pass myself off as a human. But we went in there, set up all our equipment and in this boxcar, and then we went around the museum and set up equipment there. And I had the Ghost Radar app, which a lot of people talk smack about apps, but this is like one of the things that made me believe in this app was when we got back to the phone, there's a whole list of words, and this is Ghost Radar Legacy. And it says Kate Johnson, Walter Intention Death, Sharp Tool, so on and so forth. All these different random words, and you kind of got to put the puzzle pieces together and kind of come up with a story. But we gave it to the museum curator, and he did some homework. Being that he works for the railroad, he's privy to a lot of things that a lot of us aren't. And he did find that we're in Durango, but she was a prostitute in Alamosa back in the 1800s. And she actually fell in love with this firefighter, and they were engaged to be married, so he invited her on the train to elope. They were going to elope and go get married somewhere else where, people don't know them and they don't have to worry about judgment and ridicule and whatnot. As they're traveling, being that she was a working girl, the brakeman came in and found them together, and a fight ensued, and the firefighter was stabbed to death. Well, Kate Johnson was Catholic, and like you were saying with religion, there's certain beliefs, and so she believed if she killed herself, she'd be stuck in purgatory. And so after he was killed, she tried to move on with her life. Her madam really loved her, gave her some money, sent her out to California, and she ended up taking her own life by ingesting muriatic acid, which is one of the most horrible, slowest ways you can go. But after that, she was basically stuck in purgatory. She was stuck at the point in her life that led to her suicide, which was on that train car where her fiancé had been stabbed to death. And she's a really good ghost. She hasn't turned bad or anything, but I think she was really needing to be released. So he found this story, and he's like, she was a prostitute from Alamosa. Her name was Kate Johnson, and this is what happened. And we're like, oh my God, like, I can't believe we found that, and I'm so glad that we did. Because shortly after, a Catholic school class came in, and he was going to tell them, like, the bare bones story, but he just felt like he needed to tell them everything. So he did. And as he's leaving the train car, when you walk on a train car, it kind of goes back and forth when you're riding on one on the tracks, it does the same thing. So he's thinking the class is following him. And as he gets to the bottom of the stairs, he hears them. And he said the hair like raised up on the back of his neck. And he was raised Catholic, but he had never heard this prayer before. And he said it was one of the most beautiful prayers he had ever heard. And when they came out, he's like, what prayer was that? That was so beautiful. And they said it was a prayer of release from purgatory. And I've had different Catholic people say, well, there's no such thing as that. But there actually is, because other Catholics know about it. I think just certain people are privy. And probably especially today, they're putting exorcisms in different languages so everybody can do it. And they're giving these kids this information to help spirits to move on. But she actually, when I went in a week later after this happened, the museum curator, Jeff, was like, hey, I think Kate's gone. And he was really sad because he was really attached to her. And he's like, can you go back there and see if you can sense her anymore? And I went back there, and generally when you go up the stairs, you'd feel this really harsh sense of anxiety, and then you'd go in and feel like really claustrophobic, and then you'd start to feel nauseous. And I think that's where the boyfriend was stabbed at that point, is where you feel nauseous. And then at the very back there, your face just felt like it was on fire, but there was a stove back there for cooking, so that might have just been like some of the feelings she had throughout the car. But she was released from purgatory. She came back 3 months later because Emmy, like I was telling you before, she's a little girl ghost, and she was there at the museum stuck with this a-hole ghost, the brakeman, who's the one that killed her fiance. We've got pictures of him and Kate and Emmy, and there's another ghost called Legs, but she was actually released from purgatory. And then I'm thinking, on the other hand, like, when you talk about suicide and how churches say, it's a sin, like the worst sin. Well, when people first came over here, left and right, people were killing themselves because it was such a hard life, and how can I live through this? So in the churches, they made it a law that suicide is the worst sin. But I have read, and I don't know where exactly it is in the scriptures, but it says there is a place in heaven for tormented souls. And I think people that do commit suicide are so tormented because it really does take a lot of guts to do it. Like, there will be people that talk about it all the time and never do it because it's so scary, to think about the end and so on and so forth. But I think these people are tormented, and there's a special place for them in heaven. And I don't think you go to hell when you kill yourself. Like, some of my best friends, some of the best people in the world that I've known have done so, and they don't deserve hell. I think there's a place for them in heaven for the tormented soul, because life is so hard. Like, it's a really dark place. And even listening to the news every day, they're like, well, we are in really hard times or dark times, so we like to share this positive note. And sometimes it turns negative, but even the news is broadcasting it. This is a really dark place, really dark times. There are beautiful things about it, but sometimes it's really hard for somebody to look past what's right in front of them and to see a brighter future. Sometimes you just see, nothingness. And so it's really, really hard. And my heart goes out to people that feel that way. And, I'm here for anybody that needs to talk and get it out. And I know that doesn't always help, like you're saying, with the phone lines. It's not always the best thing, but just to have somebody to talk to sometimes is really...
Absolutely. I mean, I agree with that 100%. I get that the phone number is there for, for people that, are by themselves, don't feel like they have anybody to talk to. But I just think as decent human beings, even if you don't know anybody that may be going through that, just as a decent human being, always check on people that you care about. Just check on them, and if they seem like they're acting different, or just something may be up, just spend a little extra time, be a decent human being, and just lend a hear. I feel like in today's times, it feels like there's a lot of selfishness going on. And I'm not pointing fingers. It just seems like that. And if you just be a decent human being and just be there for people to kind of let an ear for. So I've met some really cool people within the last couple of days, and this band that I just auditioned for, man, these guys are amazing, and yeah. I've only been talking to them for a week.
I'm so excited for you, and you got hired today. High five!
Yes, it was really awesome. It was a good time. It was a long day. It was a 5-hour round trip. definitely worth it. Did about, I'd say about 3.5, 4 hours of playtime. But we ran right through the songs, had a couple, little hiccups as but it was our first time. But yeah, man, they liked what I had to offer, and I loved, what they were offering, and my guitar player and the bassist and singer. We don't go by our names. We actually go by our surnames. And my bass player and singer, his name is him, and
Nice.
my guitar player, his name is me, and I am the drummer, and my name is I. And we have a little surprise coming up, and I don't want to talk about too much of it. Don't want to give it away, but we've got some really cool ideas for some, for the product, for the music that we're going to be, pushing out to the fans, and it's just going to be really cool. We've got a lot of awesome ideas. Him has got a bunch of great ideas. And me, the guitar player, just an amazing people, man. And was really blessed to be able to go out there and jam with them today. And my wife, who actually, was nice enough, because I drive all week long as a truck driver. I'm driving 9-10 hours a day every day, so it gets old. So when I'm at home, she likes to drive and help me out. So she actually did the full 5-hour drive, there and back, and it was nice, to have her there with me and kind of support. And so it was really cool to have her there, and it was good. It was good. It was awesome, good times, and those guys are really cool dudes, and I can't wait for us to bless your ears with some of the really cool stuff we're working on. So
I love it. Yeah, on our breaks, I don't do commercials. I'm pushing people's music, independent artists, and the songs that they've produced, and I want to get it out there. So on breaks, there's different types of music. We've had rap, we've had rock, we've had all kinds of things, and we'll have a few things here tonight. But I love music. I remember when I was in boot camp, that was one of the things that I missed the most, was music. And they take TV, everything away from you. Like, you don't get all the essentials that we get in the real world. And I had issues with my feet. My arches kept trying to fall, and so I had to wear arch supports, and issues with my stomach, which we got worked out eventually. But I remember riding on the bus to the medical facility, and the bus driver had music on, but he had it on so quietly that you could hear a cricket chirping, because everybody was so quiet. They just wanted to hear that music. And I think it's so healing and such a big piece of us. Like, music is amazing. And so I'm so glad you're doing that. And especially that your wife is supporting you. It's so important to have support when you're doing things that you truly love. And so that's amazing. I'm so happy for you. And you got the job. Do you have to drive that far every time?
No, see, the great thing about being an experienced musician, and I'm going to blow my head up here for a second, but him and me and myself, that's going to get really hard for you guys to understand. But it's an ongoing thing between us. It's very intuitive why we do that. And that'll come about, but. So the great thing about being an experienced musician is the fact that you could sit down with other experienced musicians, tell each other what needs to happen, what you guys want to do, run through the songs, boom, 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 figure out where the edits are, where you need to figure it out, okay, and then we go upon our way. And then the great thing about the digital media now is they can email me tracks. I've got all the stuff here. I can record, I can send them tracks back. So it does get very, a lot easier than, say, 20, 30 years ago, where, you literally had to, play together all the time. Is it better live? Absolutely. It's better to go, there so you can see what everybody's doing, get the feel, the head nods. So it's a lot easier to do it that way, but being experienced and knowing how to do certain things, it does help a lot, with the digital age now. So we're able to do that. But I believe kind of what we talked about today, probably, once every 3 weeks we'll probably get together and just, zoom through some songs, talk about what we're going to do, work on costumes, work on music videos and stuff like that. And then boom, head back and hit it again. So I was told today that we're going to go from 0 to 120 like that. So I'm really excited to see what things this band has in store. By the way, I did not name the band, and the name of our band is Kick Toy. So
nice.
Definitely keep an eye out for us, and it's really cool. Would you like to know the reason why they came up with that name?
I would. It's a very interesting name, and I actually really like it. How did they come up with that? Okay,
so Kick Toy, it's actually kind of cool for me too, because I collect a lot of, anybody that knows me knows I'm very geeky when it comes to like old toys, new toys, or just anything collectible that I can keep my eyes on. I love, getting that, keeping it in this package. My whole room is nerdy as hell. Like, it's just, and I love it. But like, I collect German Steins, legitimate German Steins from Germany.
Wow.
And if you collect Steins, you know that, what's legitimate, what's not, what's made in Japan, what's made in China, what's actually made in Germany. They actually have a specific stamp on them that you would know. It's actually etched in there if it's made from, Munich or something like that. So, and I collect those as well. But back to the Kick Toy. So I collect toys, but this actually has nothing to do with me. This was something that him actually came up with, and when I met him today, I didn't realize this was part of it, but we went into the practice room, and he has got, toys everywhere. Like just out of the packages,
yeah.
just the Hogs, superheroes, just all kinds of stuff. The reason why it's Kick Toy is because so his outfit he is a basically broken, almost like a Raggedy Ann Annabelle doll. He makes himself look like that, and me, which is a guitar player, they're working on his image as we speak. But essentially, we're all somewhat of that generation of a broken toy, kind of something that was, there's something wrong with us, which is why, we're not good enough to be part of the, society, but we're still good enough for each other. So we all work together in order to make one kick-ass, kick toy. And that's why it's called Kick Toys, because a toy that's, basically getting kicked around, pushed around. So that's really essentially why we went with that. Right. Yeah. And as for me, I'm a broken superhero. That's my character. So we're actually working on the costume as we speak. So
that's super cool. I'm excited for you. And like you said, the 0 to 120, just fly by the seat of your pants and enjoy the ride. And I know you guys are going to do really good, but once you guys get some originals, you definitely have to send me some so I can play them on break and advertise your group.
Oh, we've already got, there's already, see, Kick Toy was Kick Toy before I came in. I'm now part of the band. I am the drummer. So we've already got, he sent me 40 originals today. So,
wow, that's awesome.
That's not going to be an issue. And one thing I want to let everybody know too, if you check out Dark Hunter's Paranormal page, Back to the Paranormal, is Monday, just started this last week, is actually Music Mondays. Okay, and what I like to do is, like I said, I'm a truck driver, so I will go through and I listen to Pandora, and I type in some of the most ridiculous shit you'll ever think of
right?
when I listen to Pandora, because I'm tired of listening to the same old, stuff that everybody listens to. I like to delve into Swedish music, German music, just some really cool bands, and do my research, and then just type them in and see what happens. Pandora likes to, when you type in a band, I have a plan with them. I pay like $10 a month. So when I put it in, they'll kind of put music in that's used to that. So I'll find out bands that I've never even heard of that's like, holy crap, that was awesome. And what I'll do is I will share those onto that Facebook page, and you can check them out if you want to or not. And I give everybody else the opportunity to just post their favorite type of music they like and listen to on the page as well. That also goes for, local bands or whatever. It gives a chance for people to kind of, music for me and for most people is just so, it's just so relaxing. And so it doesn't matter if it's metal, jazz, country, whatever it is you like, You know, a lot of people listen to music so that they can just breathe, get away, you know,
Yeah,
don't
people
think
talk
about stuff
about
for a while, you know?
meditation and stuff, but like music is to me like a sort of therapy. And when people ask me what my favorite type of music is, I always just say music, because there's so many different genres I like and so many different things for different moods, and you apply a different one for different needs. You know, I really need to get some aggression out right now, so I'm going to play this, or I really need to mellow out right now, so I'm going to play this, you know. So many different genres and different things that you could listen to, and it's just endless. I think music is kind of like a language for all, you know. Everyone can understand it and feel it, and not necessarily understand the words, but you could feel the heart or whatever behind the music that comes through, and it really is a healing process for a lot of people. It really is good medicine, I must say.
Absolutely. And you, like I said, it's always a learning process when you go and you just try to, you know, like I said, again, digital age, all you have to do is type in something and you can find 100,000 things that are related to that, and you can just search. It's like I go to work and, you know, my wife likes a lot of the stuff that I listen to, and sometimes she doesn't like stuff I listen to, but like I'll send her stuff at home. Like I'll just text message her this song and be like, check this song out. You really got to listen to these words. And I'll send her songs like, you know, 4 or 5 times a day, and she's like, damn it, now I got to listen to this song, and I got to figure out, oh, now I like this guy. Now I got to find out more about this person. And she's sitting at home trying to get stuff done that she has to do during the day, and I'm sending her these music, and it's fun. She goes, great, now another person I like. So it's kind of funny.
It truly is. So, when did you and Melissa decide to start your paranormal group? Getting back to the paranormal.
We actually started our group in April of this year. So officially, like an actual Dark Hunters Paranormal was started in April with me and Melissa. So
nice. So man, I think last time I had you guys on, it wasn't too long after that. And I often wonder, how do I find these people? But I just randomly do, and I think everything happens for a reason. So I'm so glad I found you guys. And, you know, I really enjoy your stories, so I can't wait to share them again. I just muted myself. Do you remember what your very first case was as Dark Hunters Paranormal?
As Dark Hunters Paranormal? My memory sucks, guys. It really does. It's horrible. It's so bad. I literally took a shower like an hour ago, and I don't even know what color underwear I'm wearing.
Right. I blame it on the road. I'm just kidding.
I blame it on the 1,000 things I get myself into.
Right.
So we actually did a private investigation at a friend of ours' house. That was... What, hon? Oh, my wife's asking me what I need to know. What our first investigation was for Dark Hunters. Yeah, that's true. We were guest for Doogie from the Wraith Chasers. We were guest with him in R&R Live at the Springfield Museum, the Robertson County Museum in Springfield, Tennessee.
Nice.
So we did that investigation, which is pretty cool. We got quite a bit of stuff there. Most of the stuff we actually got was actually in the square outside. They call it a square because it's legitimately the town is in a square. The courthouse sits in the center, and then everything kind of goes around it in the square. So there was a place called like the Jail Walk, and it had like a black fence around it, and you can open it, and it's this little alley between two buildings, and they call it that because it's where they used to, you know, the prisoners used to walk to go do their jobs and then walk back. But we actually got quite a bit of stuff at that place. A lot of negative energy. Some things happened. And yeah, I don't know. We'd have to definitely go back there. You know how it is. When you go do an investigation, you can never get enough on the first, second, or even third. You know, it's...
Yeah, you just got to keep going back and getting more information. But it's interesting, like, a lot of people associate hauntings with buildings, but it can actually be people and places. Like you were saying, a street corner. When I went to Las Vegas, I paid for myself and my oldest daughter to go on a paranormal investigation. We've done it on our own, but we wanted to go see what other people did, and they actually handed out dowsing rods to everyone, which was my first time using copper dowsing rods. Like, before, when I was a little girl, my granny taught me how to douse with a hickory stick and to douse for water that way. So that was cool, but then I received these copper dowsing rods, and they're like, this is how it works, so on and so forth, and I'm holding it, and my body just starts shaking, and then I'm kind of haunching my back, like, backwards, because the weight of the dowsing rods, even though they're so light, they just felt really heavy, and I'm getting all this energy coming through me, and come to find out there was a little girl that had stepped off the corner right there where we were standing, and she got hit by a horse and cart. So we were communicating with her, but it was amazing just how that felt, and you know, everybody was noticing that I was shaking, and then I was like, it felt like they could see that I was like trying really hard to hold these up, and it's just amazing the different things you learn from each other. That's why I feel like para-unity is so important, to work with different groups and support each other instead of, like, I like what you guys do with your band. The way you take away your names and you get a certain title, it kind of takes away the ego as well, you know what I mean? And
100%.
Yeah, and so that is awesome. I'm so glad you guys are doing that, and I think that'll help you guys work together as a unit. But yeah, it's amazing, like, different things that can happen and different tools you can use. And so I purchased those dowsing rods, and I still have them today. But then when I was working a security gig, they had all kinds of copper clippings. So I would take those after my shift, with permission, of course. And so I'm going to make some dowsing rods for my friends. Do you guys have dowsing rods? If not, I'll have to send you guys some.
Melissa actually loves using dowsing rods. We keep procrastinating that we're going to get some, and we just haven't gotten it yet. So
yeah, I'll have to make you guys some and send them to you. They are a very cool tool, and people think of water and different things, but you can actually use them to communicate with spirits because it's a kinetic metal. You know, they can use their energy to move them to yes or no, or you can even do the alphabet, or asking their age. You can go through the numbers, and it can take a while. You have to have a lot of patience to do it, but it's a really good tool. And some people argue, like, isn't that just the same as using a Ouija board? You're allowing something to control this, but I don't feel like they're controlling my body or whatever. I think they're using their energy on the copper rods. Like, that to me makes sense, and I never felt like anything was really controlling my body. I felt like it was in my hands. That's why it felt so heavy that one night. Like this little girl was trying to communicate through the rods. It just felt really heavy.
Right.
Melissa should be on here so she could tell us about her dowsing rod experience, but I think she's shy.
Yeah. So if you don't mind, let's back up a little bit. I kind of want to talk about that para-unity thing again, because it's something that I've made quite a few videos about on my page. You know, and anybody that has watched my page knows that I am kind of a funny person. I like to put a little comedy in my skits and stuff when I do my videos, because that's what I'm about. You know, that's who I am, and I say what's on my mind. You know, I try to be respectful as possible. You know, sometimes I go a little overboard because there's certain things that really piss me off that I have to get off my chest. But it's a great outlet for me, and I use that platform for it. And so back to the para-unity thing. One thing I don't understand. And even though I've only had this company with my wife since April, you know, we've been around it for, like I said, 15, 16 years, just around, you know, different groups and stuff like that. And, we're friends with a lot of the people that have shows on TV and stuff like that. So it's not, the problem is for some reason we've gotten to a point, and I say we because obviously it's not everybody, but I'm not going to sit here and call out groups. I don't do that, but we as this, what's the word I'm looking for? As this industry, as this paranormal industry, science and stuff like that, we get to the point where it's not about doing it just to get evidence and find out and get answers for the historical value of it. Now it's about, I got this evidence. This was me. I want the credit for it. I did all the, and that's, to me, it's just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous to think that because you went to a place and got evidence where 4 other groups went, and for some reason it was a dead night, they didn't get evidence, that makes you more of a better paranormal investigator, and which is why we have, it goes in turn with why you have some people buying an event venue for $500 a night, same event venue I can get for $500 a night, right? But yet I'm charging, $25, $40 per person so that I can pay that $500 back, whereas this other group who paid $500 is charging $180 a night for it.
Holy shnikes.
Yeah. Do you see what I'm saying though? Like, you could go, I'm not going to call out names. It's not what I'm about. If you do sell $180 for a ticket, I'm sure you have a reason for it. But to me, it just seems a little, what's frustrating is because I don't have that name attached to me or that travel channel attached to me or something like that, that these people think that because, they went live and supposedly got evidence of something that may or may not have been there, now it's okay for that person to inflate, as we, let's go political, inflate the cost of something that, and it's just not, to me, it's not fair. And that kind of goes into the whole para-unity spectrum, and which is why Tuesdays on Dark Hunters Paranormal, here I am plugging myself again, but no Tuesdays is Team Tuesdays. Okay, I share a perfect example. I shared, I think last Tuesday, I shared like 10 teams that, not necessarily were my favorite or anything. I just shared these teams that I thought, were legitimate and had some good stuff they do, and I like what they do. So I share them on the page, and I give everybody else, a chance to do that, and I didn't get anything on that page. I've got over almost 5,000 followers on the page, and nobody took that opportunity to share their favorite team. It's not about, that's what people don't understand. It's not when I have that page, it's not just about Dark Hunters Paranormal. Okay. I want to find out what these other groups are doing. I want to find out that these groups went to this place, got this evidence, because you know what? When I go to that place, I want to get some evidence that will lock in like a damn puzzle piece. You see what I'm saying? I want it to lock in as a puzzle piece and fit it in with their evidence and be like, holy shit, I got this evidence too, but I got answers to your questions that you were asking 6 months ago. Right? But we can't do that because the whole ego thing, the whole, well, this is my evidence, and I don't want to, everybody's worried about, somebody stealing their shit, and that's what frustrates me about it. I don't know if you've got different experiences with that. To me, though, like I've been around it 15 years, and that seems to be the biggest problem is, number one, competition, and number two, people not wanting to share their stuff like they own it. These spirits, or paranormal entities or whatever you want to call them, they don't give you answers or Class A EVPs because you're better than anybody else. It's just at that moment in time they felt like talking to you.
Or maybe they had gained the energy they needed to communicate, you know? There's different variations of what could happen. Maybe you were there, right time, at the right place, and you got this message, you know? It's not because you're better than everybody else, and I think, you know, yes, you should get some sort of notoriety or whatever, like, I'm the one who got this, yeah, whatever, but still, like you said, it doesn't mean you're better than everyone else, you know? Egos just really get in the way, and it doesn't help us. It kind of hinders us, if you know what I'm saying.
Oh, I get 100%. And that's why I think, and I'm not trying to be negative, but I think that until that is depleted, which I don't think it will be, you're never going to have true pair unity amongst all of us until everybody starts to understand that, you know, or have that, not necessarily understand, or have that mindset of, are you doing it to help people? Are you doing it to, you know, get your historical facts or whatever it is? You know, can we work together? You know, it's not, and I think a big part of it is a 5-letter word, and that's money. I think that's really, you know, people got that thought process. Now we can start charging tickets. We can start charging what we want. People are actually going to buy in because I have such and such here from Travel Channel, and I can sell out a show and make, you know, 4 times as much as what I paid for an event. And now I can make money and I don't have to work anymore. I think that really falls into why people think that they own rights to their stuff. And it just, to me, it's kind of blasphemy, but
yeah,
that's my opinion. You know?
Well, you know, they say pigs get fat and hogs get slaughtered. Well, if you want to be a hog, by all means, go ahead. But it's kind of, like you said, detracting from what we're really trying to do. And yeah, it would be nice to retire doing this, but I always tell people you could really go into debt doing this, because all the money that I've spent of my own when first creating this group, like, you can go broke doing this, buying this equipment, and doing these certain things. And a lot of people don't use equipment. I just like to have it to back up what I pick up on, and the more evidence you gain, the better that your case looks. So it's nice to use these different tools to do that. But I do agree with you that the ego is kind of like the ruin ship. But I think the more that we, as people, kind of stick together and have the para-unity going on, the further we're going to go. When it comes to egos, it kind of puts up this wall, this barrier, where it doesn't really help.
Right. It doesn't. And it's frustrating. It is frustrating. It kind of gets you, and that kind of goes back to what I was talking to you before we went on air, is, you know, Dark Hunters Paranormal, we love doing the big venues, you know. That's we like doing that. Me and Melissa love doing those. Unfortunately, we do find ourselves in a situation where we do have a lot of personal investigations, and me and my team, who I have people from, you know, all over the country that work for Dark Hunters. You know, our motto is, we got in this because we want to help people and we want to learn about it. You see what I'm saying? Because I can't sit here and definitively tell you that what I see is a ghost or a spirit. I can't do that because I don't know. Okay, that's why it's paranormal. But I can tell you that it fascinates me, and that I want to do everything that I can to learn why that's happening, okay, why it is positive or negative energy, whatever it is, what's causing that, okay? And I will always be learning. That's the greatest thing about paranormal, is you're never going to know everything. Never. If you are not learning at least 50 things on an investigation, then you're not doing it right, because you're always learning. You learn something new every day on an investigation, or no matter what you do. And that's what fascinates me about it. You know,
yeah,
when I
so
can sit in a room with I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying it's so true. Like, every case is different, just like every person is different. Not one thing works for every case.
You know, and there's different types of skeptics as well. There's a skeptic that just refuses to believe no matter what they see, they will not, go to, and that's fine. I respect that. I respect that type of person because I believe that there are people that have, I'm not going to say superpowers or special abilities, but I will say they have abilities to let themselves feel different things that maybe other people won't allow themselves to feel or refuse to feel. So if I'm sitting in a room, I had this conversation with him today. This is if I'm sitting in a room with a 100% skeptic that just does not believe, in the paranormal, has never seen anything that's paranormal and doesn't believe it. But I'm sitting in a room with him, okay? And I'll give you a perfect example. Right now I'm looking at my cooler that I take to work every day, right? I'm looking at a cooler. It weighs probably about, 15 pounds, right? Sitting on my counter. If I'm sitting here and the skeptic is sitting next to me, there's nobody in my house. We're just looking at this cooler. And that cooler gets pushed off of my counter across the room. And nobody touched it, right? There was no string. There was nothing. Nothing happened to make that happen. That's paranormal. That's something I can't explain. And if that skeptic cannot give me a legitimate reason, scientific or otherwise, why that happened, then that's exactly paranormal. Now, that's not saying that skeptic's going to be like, yep, there's ghosts, yep, there's spirits. But he can admit, or she can admit, that they can't explain why that happened. And to me, that is why I do this. I do it because I love seeing stuff like that, but I do it so the fascination of seeing somebody else that never believed before sees something that I see and doesn't think that I'm effing crazy because I believe in that kind of crap. You see what I'm saying? So that's the reason why I do what I do.
Yeah, I know, as a kid, in my family, the paranormal was just a normal thing to us. It was not paranormal, it was just normal. And then I moved from the sticks, which I lived in Siloam Springs, Arkansas, and moved to Fayetteville, Arkansas, which is a college town. And I was trying to make friends, and what we'd do at home was just tell each other, our different experiences and, different everyday things. And you tell people on the outside that, and they kind of treat you like you have the plague or something. There's something wrong with you. But for me, I first started Four Corners Paranormal in 2012 to help somebody. Her son went missing on Thanksgiving vacation because he was forced to go see his dad, and his dad basically took his life. So we were trying to find answers, and that's how we started. I was like, I don't want to be in the paranormal closet anymore. I want to come out and I want to help people because I don't care what anybody thinks anymore. And I'm holding my little baby son, thinking about this whole tragic event, and just, if something happened to my son, I would want somebody to help me. And so that's what brought me out of the closet and made me want to help people. And we don't charge, and we don't take advantage of people. And like I was saying, pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. But on that note, we do have to go to our first break. And for this break, we have Michaelyn Hay, who's a high school Canadian phenom. And we have 3 of her songs, Devil You Know, Pins and Needles, and Mirror, as well as Mocha T, who's a Milwaukee artist, and her song is My Life. So you guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after this musical break.
Your troubled heart bleeds like a river. It's rushing towards fields painted greener. It doesn't see the demons behind. Pray Talking on pins and needles, every word through a microscope. You keep stomping down on the ground while I've been stuck on this tightrope. I just wanna say what I wanna say without your sentence. I'm not willing to do the time when I'm innocent, and I'm innocent. Talking on pins and needles. Talking on pins and needles. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. Walked on my share of thin ice with your blowtorch at my feet. You won't ever see me beg, so take this tongue off your leash. I'm gonna say what I wanna say, don't need permission. Interpret it how you want, it's my decision. Talking on pins and needles. Talking on pins and needles. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. Dancing on shattered glass, kicking the pieces all around. My safety has been broken, this is now a hunting ground. Talking on pins and needles. Talking on pins and needles. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. I'm gonna hang it up, I'm gonna hang it up, I'm gonna hang it up, Talking about, I'm gonna hang it up, I'm gonna hang it up, I'm gonna hang it up, Talking about, I'm gonna hang it up, I'm gonna hang it up, I'm gonna hang it up, Talking about, I'm gonna hang it up, I'm gonna hang it up, I'm gonna hang it up.
Life, the quality or state of being alive, a living organism, and I am. Mocha tea, let's get it. My life, the sugar, honey, iced tea. They wonder why I smile so gracefully, and wonder why I like blue cheese. When I'm lactose, 10 toes, 10 fingers, nigga, 10 hoes. Flow dope, whip it, microwave and stove was broke. Broke days, broke weeks, even broke months. A rich don't will have them going crazy. Lettuce and mac and cheese got them going crazy. Irregular, abnormal, and unusual. So unusual, I got shot for being beautiful. You can tell me love, you so gorgeous, but yet got a gun pointing to my forehead. Yo, head break bread, yeah, we gon' feast. Remember the cold nights we had nothing to eat. Southern Belle raising hell area near you. I'm hungry and leaving no proof. My life, my life, my life. It ain't always sunshine in my life. A big puzzle, I'm trying to figure peace ain't right. They thought I wasn't gonna make it. I know they didn't. It's visual. Check your vision if you got the issue. A news feeds if you got the memo. Breaking news, a new wave coming. Fuck a wave, hurricane, so mocha-licious. I really do this. It's in my blood. Pass it to my kids when I have some. And that's hip hop.
Welcome back, everyone, and thanks so much for tuning in tonight to We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. Tonight we have Chris Chappell. Hey, Chris, welcome back, and thanks so much for being on the show tonight. It's been awesome having you so far.
It's been awesome and fabulous being on your show. Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure.
So, we were just talking on the break of what we'd like to talk about next. So, I'll give the floor to you.
So, yeah, Chick-fil-A sandwiches are really good. I'm not sure if you like pickles or not, but I'm really down. I'm just kidding.
I love me some pickles.
Yeah, I'm a big pickle fan, too. So, what do you call it? So we did an investigation here on my property. We like to joke around and call it the Chappell Manor. And a group from Wisconsin, also known as Lost Souls in the Shadows, they're actually the Dark Hunters Paranormal Wisconsin division. They're from Wisconsin. Travis, my lead investigator, him and his wife and their daughter and son came down, stayed with us for a night, and we did an investigation here. I've done a few investigations live on my chat at my house, and people have seen some really cool things. But so we did an investigation when they were here, me, Travis, and his son Taylor. And so the property I live on is just under 5 acres. And I went to one part of the property. We all had radios. Travis went to the other side, and then Taylor went to the far north side, which is where some of the wooded part of the property is. And it was quite interesting because what we did is I had the 4K night vision camera on me, and then he was using the EMF detector, and then Taylor was using, I don't remember what Taylor was using. I think he was just using the EVP recorder. But it was quite interesting because Travis, who is kind of like me, he goes in and isn't really afraid of anything. Like, he likes to call out bad stuff, good stuff. He doesn't care. He's like me. Like, we don't get scared easily. And we kind of go gung ho. Well, Travis had called me on the radio and said, "Hey, come on over here. I'm not feeling so hot." And one thing I will say to all the listeners tonight at Dark Hunters Paranormal is the number one priority for me at any one of my events or a private investigation is my team and my guests. Okay, you guys and my team are my priority. So if anybody starts feeling ill, if they don't feel right, if something isn't right, or anything, we get them out of that situation immediately. Okay, and we have the proper precautions afterwards to sage them, to heal them and stuff like that. So we do all of that stuff we take all that stuff very seriously. Travis, who, like I said before, is very gung-ho, will go into it, but he literally started throwing up in the yard, right? Just out of nowhere. And he just got sick and felt like something was stabbing him in the stomach. And so I got him away from that situation. He was feeling better. And then we started walking towards Taylor, and Taylor was getting a really, really bad headache out of nowhere. And he said he wasn't feeling right. Something was touching him. So we got out of that situation bad. What we come to find out after we sat down and we kind of talked about why these things were happening, what was happening. Well, we have found out that somewhere on this property or in this area that there was Indian burial ground. A lot of the Cherokee Indians came through here, okay? And one of the tribes that Travis' family was from, his ancestors, actually fought with the Cherokee Indians, okay? Well, we came to the conclusion, hypothesis, but a conclusion in our knowledge was, maybe the reason that they were attacking him or made him feel not welcome was because they thought that at that time they were coming to attack the Cherokee Indians, like that happened back, in those days. Because all they, in my experience, all they can see is, all they know is what they've seen in their time period. You know what I'm saying? So it was just very interesting, that investigation. I know that Travis has some unsettled debts here that he wants to take care of, and when he comes back, we will definitely knock those out of the ballpark. But it was that was one of the investigations that kind of was very intriguing for me.
So you said that you and Melissa had actually started doing paranormal investigations far before you started the group. Can you tell us about some of your original investigations together and what different things you experienced and found?
So when me and Melissa started dating back in 2009, 2010 area, we actually, the first place she took me on one of our week-long trips, or I think we took like a couple days. I don't exactly remember, but I know we went to St. Augustine, Florida, and she took me, and we did a overnight investigation of the oldest jail in America, in St. Augustine, and that was a very, very cool, yet could have turned bad investigation, because Melissa, my wife, actually had, at the time of the investigation, or after the investigation, had a softball-sized bruise on her side. And, I mean, there was not, she didn't run into anything, she didn't bump anything, and it was there. And she said that somebody was touching her, playing with her hair. You could see her hair being lifted up and put it down. So apparently there was a ghost named Charlie that liked women there, and we thought maybe it was him messing with her. The craziest thing about that is the next day, when we woke up in the hotel, that bruise was completely gone. So just some kind of cool things like that have happened. We did the St. Augustine. Unfortunately, we weren't able to do the fort because that's state-owned and they don't allow you. Was that? Oh, yeah, government-owned. I'm sorry. Kicktoy asked a question. Are you still there? Did I lose you?
No, I'm still here. I was just listening.
Okay. Kicktoy, Chris, what was the most challenging or frustrating thing you've had to overcome during an investigation? That's a great question. Kicktoy, I'll tell you this, man. The most challenging or frustrating thing that we as people that, as paranormal investigators that really believe in our craft and have a passion for it, one of the most challenging or frustrating things for us is when we go to an investigation and we find, and Tessa, you could probably leapfrog off this when I'm finished, but when you go to an investigation, especially one with, say, for instance, like the Wraith Chasers or, another group that is very popular, some of these, what I like to call fangirls or fanboys, come and they like to do certain stupid shit just to get attention. Okay? They take our craft to a whole different level of exaggeration.
Right.
What I mean by that is, so we did Rosemont Mansion in Rosemont Inn in Gallatin, Tennessee. Okay, and we did a really good investigation there. Well, they separated in groups because there was like a crap ton of people. There were too many than should have been in that place, for contamination. There was like 40 people there. So they separated us into like 4 or 5 different groups in different parts of the building. We ended up being with this one group at a time. We were in the children's room. Me and Melissa were sitting on one of the older antique couches, and there was these 2 girls that claimed to be psychic mediums. Okay, I say that very loosely because I'm not saying that all psychic mediums are not real. I would never say that, but I have had way too many experiences with people that pretend to be them that it really looks bad on people that really have a passion for it. Okay, so anyway, so these 2 girls who claim to be psychic mediums were sitting in this room, and one at one side of the room, the other at the other side. And we had one of the girls that worked with the Brace Chasers at the time, and these 2 girls were feeding off each other. It was quiet, and these 2 girls were like, "There's a little girl in here, and she has black hair." And the other girl was like, "Yes, actually it's got blonde highlights in it, but it's black. But blonde highlights, but black. But she's walking towards you. She wants to touch you. Let her touch you. But don't ask her. Don't talk to her. She doesn't want you to talk to her. Let her touch you." And I'm sitting there like, I'm just making noises like these girls are just losing their freaking minds. Like, what is going on here, right? But I kind of kept it cool because I was thinking, I was like, I'm going to say, nope, she's sitting on my lap asking Santa what she wants for Christmas. But I was being cool. I was being good. And then finally, Mike, one of the Tennessee Wraith Chasers, had walked into the room, right? Because the door was closed. He walked into the room. Everybody was expecting it. You know who jumped? The 2 psychic mediums. So, of course, I said, smart-assly, I said, Jesus. I says, you guys are the only ones that jumped. You would have thought you would have seen that coming. Everybody started laughing, and I got up. I was like, I just can't do this. I can't do this, because the ones that go and are trying to get attention, yet, and it's just frustrating. Though that, Kick Toy, is what the most challenging and frustrating thing for me is when I'm trying to do an investigation and you get that. I'd like to add on to that, too. Another challenging and frustrating thing is a lot of people think that you can go to an investigation and just randomly start asking questions and whatever it is, spirits, ghosts, whatever, is just going to start answering you like it's nothing. It doesn't work like that, number one, okay, because you got to think of it as you go to the store and run into a stranger. You're not just going to run into a complete and utter stranger and just start asking it very personal questions. You're just not, because that person's probably either going to slap the crap out of you or just walk away and be like, what a weirdo, right? The spirits are the same way. They used to be living people, okay? So you have to get comfortable with them. I like silence on my investigations. I really do. I find that you get a lot more by just feeling your environment. We do use tech-savvy stuff, but I feel like, and when I get an investigation and someone that says they've been on 50 ghost hunts comes and, buys tickets of mine, and they just sit there and they just talk and talk and talk and talk and ask, what's your name? Give me a yes, give me a no. Give me a yes, give me a no. Or shut up for 5 freaking seconds.
Right.
Like
How can they answer if you keep talking?
So that have to be, I hope that answered your questions.
Well, it can be frustrating, and since the beginning of Four Corners Paranormal, I started doing World's Largest Ghost Hunt. We're not going to do it this year because every year they're like, okay, so those who have been originally here, we're not going to charge, but this year they decided to charge everybody, and I'm like, that goes against everything that you guys have said in the beginning, and I'm not going to pay $50 for our team to be a highlight on your reel. Like, we'll do our own thing, and so perhaps on the that would be tomorrow. Perhaps we'll do our own thing, but we'll see what happens. But people just try to exploit it, and I do appreciate how it is out there, and people can partake and watch and experience different things just by watching, because it kind of gives some value or some sort of, I don't know, that it's real, that we're really doing something, and we're not here for shits and giggles. We're here to try to get to the bottom of this and find out these stories. And like you were saying, when you're talking and you won't shut up, like, how can you expect to pick anything up? EVPs, generally, when you get them, are so quiet. How can you hear that over somebody's voice? So it is very important. And I did find that with that very first investigation we did with Kate Johnson, we weren't even in the room, and she spouted off all kinds of things, which basically told her story. So you got to give them that room, because it's hard for them to access the energy and put that forward to make it into words or whatnot, something for us to be able to take and investigate. You can't keep talking, like you said, and like I was saying with the world's largest ghost hunt, the point I was getting to there is they ask you to invite outsiders in and charge money, so that way you can donate it to, first year it was for the Humane Society, second year it's for restoration of historical monuments, so on and so forth. We had people come in who, I've known this lady for a long time, and by now, as long as she's been doing paranormal investigations, she should know you should not come in inhibited. She came in, gave me a hug, and you could just smell the alcohol coming off of her. And I was like, oh wow, I hope nobody else notices, because she's a friend of mine, and this is kind of embarrassing, but the whole crew did, and she was very disruptive and caused a lot of issues. And it actually puts a lot of negative energy out there as far as entities, and people around her too, because she's not being serious, and she's just vocally kidding around and stuff, which I have no problem with, having fun on a job and enjoying yourself, but at the same time have respect for the spirits we're trying to communicate with, and have respect for people that are taking you through this tour of, it was the Grand Imperial in Silverton. This place has been around forever, and there's so many ghosts there. It just caused a bunch of issues.
Right, and the thing, we were invited to that as well, the world's largest ghost hunt, and we decided not to do that as well, because we weren't going to pay the money as well. We're kind of on your side on that. So another thing too, people have to realize is when you go on an investigation, you don't truly know what you're dealing with. You really don't. You go to these sites, maybe you've been to it a couple times, and maybe you're trying to look for the same spirit. Maybe you got different spirits there, but you have to realize, maybe, for instance, maybe I resemble something that was bad or negative to that spirit, and that spirit wants nothing to do with me. So no matter how hard I try, I'm not going to get through to it, because it's, number one, either scared of me, or number two, like I said, I resemble something that gives that entity or something a bad reference and doesn't want nothing to do with me. And that could go for anybody that goes in an investigation. As far as alcohol and drugs go, anytime we do an investigation, it's always on our tickets, and I'm very, very strict about that. I don't give a damn if you spent $50 or $100 on a ticket. If you come to one of our events drunk, or smelling a booze, or on drugs, you will be asked to leave. I have that authority because I'm running the event, and we take that very seriously. Number one, you're not in your frame of mind. You're not in your, you're not taking what we do seriously. And in that aspect, what are you there for in the first place? I have skeptics that go and take what we do seriously because they really want to find out what it is we're seeing or what we're doing. Okay, and they come and they show respect. So I expect someone that says they believe in the paranormal to come, and be sober and not be on drugs or something. That's just something that we're very, very strict about at Dark Hunters. And I refuse to let any of my team members come to drunk, because number one, they won't ever be able to do an investigation with me again, and number two, they will leave immediately. because that's just one thing. It's one thing to have an investigation and have a celebration afterwards, completely different. But during the investigation, I'm one of having a sound mind and sound body. So
myself as well, and not only is it disruptive, it can compromise people around you, and it can compromise you. These different spirits, okay, not necessarily the ones that are of the light, but there are negative ones out there that are just looking for these little cracks or chinks in your armor to get in. And if you come in drunk or inebriated, that's exactly what they're looking for, so they could take hold of you. And who knows if that's going to follow you home and be a part of your life for who knows how long. You know, you need to, that's part of protecting yourself. Be a whole unit. Use your protective barriers, and don't be inebriated. Like, it's just ridiculous. Use your common sense. And like you said, use it for afterwards. Like when we did our last world's largest ghost hunt, I had a big-ass bottle of Hornitos tequila. And afterwards, I'm like, would anyone like a shot? Of course, nobody did, so I was the only one drinking. But I didn't even sleep that night. Like, I was hoping that having a couple shots would help me sleep, but I was up all night. One of the things that we witnessed while we were there doing it, there was this dark figure, and it was kind of hunched down on the floor with its arms and knees haggardly up, and it was crawling up the aisle and then back down, and then it looked like it was trying to get underneath the stage, but the stage was blocked by wood underneath. Generally, they're open, but this was blocked by wood. And then we had something messing with our EMF detector, which when you touch it, it could just beep, or it could play different random old songs. And then as we're sitting there talking, we hear this clonking around upstairs, like somebody in cowboy boots. And I'm like, what the hell is that? And Mel is like, I think it's the owner of the hotel. He said he comes down to get late night snacks, and so he's probably going down to get something to eat. And I'm like, in his cowboy boots? Like, is he wearing his pajamas and cowboy boots? Like, he was wearing tennis shoes earlier. This is definitely not him. So we went upstairs and investigated, and I was about to go into the kitchen, and everybody told me not to, so I listened to them, you know. So I didn't go in. I don't know what would have happened had I, but supposedly there was a ghost there that was called the Yellow-Eyed Cowboy, and he was of Swedish descent, and he had yellow eyes, and he had been talked about for generations. But we were thinking that's what it was, and then everybody went to sleep. Well, as I'm talking to Mel, me and her are the last ones up, and all of a sudden she kind of dressed off, and then she felt somebody poking her in the ribs, and then she woke up and she's like, did you need something? I felt you poking me. And I was like, no, I didn't touch you. And then not even 5 minutes later, Cheryl, who had been asleep most of the time, woke up and said somebody poked her in the hip. So something was running around poking people. And then, of course, as usual, like ever since I was like 4 or 5 years old, I'm the last one asleep, and I only got about an hour, so I was pretty cattywampus the next day. It's pretty entertaining when I have lack of sleep. I'm a pretty funny individual. But there was creaking in the chairs, and you could hear people walking around, and I couldn't sleep. There was just too much energy going on, and everybody's just sleeping like babies. And I was like, I wish I wasn't so sensitive to these energies, because it would be nice to get at least 3 hours of sleep tonight.
I hear that. Yeah, I feel you on that. Anytime I do an investigation, I'm so drained for at least 2 to 3 days.
It really does take a lot of energy, and some cases are more draining than others, but I do feel you there. You do feel that drainage, but when you try to go to sleep, like we were sleeping in the theater that night at the hotel, and so like the spirits were just going and running amok, and there was no way I was going to sleep that night. And even my friend Mia, she was on the show, I think, last weekend for Psychic Sunday, and she stayed at a hotel down the way, and she was having all kinds of paranormal issues there too. So her and I were kind of on the same page. We didn't sleep at all that night. Everybody else slept like babies, and we were just kind of dragging ourselves around, and like I said, I get really kooky and comical when I've had lack of sleep. everything to me is funny.
I hear that.
So do you guys use certain tools on your investigations, or do you just go in and use your gut and your instincts? How do you go into an investigation? What sorts of tools do you use, and what do you do afterwards?
Essentially, for us, main thing is our bodies. We like to feel, but cameras. Taking multiple pictures at once. We say 3 to 5 multiple. Within a second in the same spot. Take 3 to 5 pictures. Cameras. With night vision. And EVP recorders. Those are really the main things we use. I know you get probably going to get some flack for this from your listeners, but I do use the Spiritus app every now and then. I know people say, "Oh, stupid phone apps, they don't work," but there's just way too much stuff that happens on that app that you can't even call a coincidence anymore, because it just gives so many intelligent answers that there's no way that it would know. You see what I'm saying? Like anything
Right.
that has to do with what it's answering. So I do use that every now and then, but essentially, just if you just go into a place that's, got a lot of history to it, just let yourself go and just relax, breathe, and just listen and see what happens. Your senses will really, give you answers of things that you may or may not want, So, but yeah, cameras, take pictures and video cameras is what we usually use.
That's awesome. And it's amazing things you can pick up, and you don't even think it's going to happen, and then all of a sudden you're like, what is this? I've caught full body apparitions. I've caught UFOs, different things on camera. And people can look at it and investigate it and be like, they can tell if you use Photoshop or not. But I do have some, it's an album on my Facebook page under Tessa Nicole Thomas Peterson, and it's titled UFOs. And if you look, the first one is called The Conference in the Sky, and there's a picture of the moon, and then right next to it a cloud, and on top of the cloud there's a ring of lights, and they're different colors. And then throughout the night there's different shuttlecraft in the air, and they're all in the same position each time, pointing up, pointing to the front, pointing sideways, left and right. It was just amazing the things you can capture, and you don't even realize until like right after I took the pictures and I'm going through to see if I should change the f-stop, this and this and that and that, and I'm like, what the hell is that? And I zoom in, and that's when I noticed the craft. I didn't see it with my naked eye because I'm supposed to wear glasses, but I don't. And when I zoomed in and I saw these different anomalies around the clouds, I'm like, holy shnikes, like, it's a whole fleet of individual spacecraft, and it looks a lot like a little shuttlecraft, but it was pretty interesting. And I've seen UFO orbs on a couple of occasions, and I've always wanted to believe in aliens and UFOs, but I had never experienced it. I had always experienced the paranormal, which to me, like you said earlier, the paranormal is an umbrella, and there's so many things underneath this umbrella. UFOs, aliens, like anything that's not normal to the random individual in the world is paranormal. And so I consider that a paranormal experience as well. My dad was really into it, so I really wanted to believe, but I really didn't until I saw it for myself in 2012, and that was a big turnaround for me, as far as like I've kind of added to my resume of paranormal experiences,
Right. Yeah, I love it all. I mean, space and stuff. I think we talked this last time we had you had me on was I just love it all. I'm just fascinated by anything. I love quantum physics and anything different realms. I believe in. It's just awesome to me.
So have you guys had any alien or UFO investigations you've done, or has it mostly been hauntings and such?
Yeah, never really done any type of alien or UFO stuff. I'm intrigued. I do watch a lot of stuff on it, about people that, have had sightings and stuff, but I've never actually went on, some type of investigation like that. I would love to. I would love to do something like that. It would be great. I really want to know. I really want to read these forms that the government said that all the proof they have. So I'm really interested in that.
Just recently, I found another show as I'm laying in bed watching TV on my phone. What an amazing app. But this thing comes up on Discovery Channel and it says Contact, and I'm like, what is that? So I look, and it's actually another show about UFO sightings and such. So I click on that, and I watch probably like 4 or 5 episodes before I finally fall asleep. But they're finding that a lot of these UFOs in Argentina and Brazil and the United States, so on and so forth, are generally around bodies of water or volcanoes. And in Argentina, overnight, a lake basically dried up. And one of the sightings in Argentina, only 22 miles away, was another lake. And that same night, there was a sighting of a spacecraft that came out, and then all of a sudden it was like, and it sucked up about 50,000 gallons of water. It made the lake go down 8 inches. And then right up the river from that is the main body of water, and it just dried up overnight. It was insane. Like, how does that happen? And a lot of times you'll see these different things coming off the spacecraft, like some sort of mist or whatnot. And it makes me wonder, are they using the different things in the water for a power supply, or what exactly are they doing with water? Could it be because they're not only abducting humans, but they're abducting fish or different things that live in the water, so they need a certain amount of water? What exactly are they using it for? It's pretty intriguing, and it just, for me, caused more questions. Like, what are they doing? What's really going on here? But it's pretty insane.
Yeah, I always joke with a lot of my friends that are into UFOs and aliens and stuff, and I always joke and I says, you know why we've never actually like have an account of an alien, like every day you don't see aliens all day. And I say the reason why that is because they probably came here and we think that we're like this smart, intelligent, digitized society, and they probably got here and they're probably millions of years ahead of us, and it was like, oh my God, the human race is completely stupid. We don't waste our time with them, and they probably just took off, like that. I joke about that a lot, because you really never know how far ahead or how far behind, it's just amazing to think, how big galaxies are. And
yeah, like I said, there's so many questions, and it's hard to really, pin it down and be an expert in these fields, just like the field of paranormal. Anytime somebody says they're an expert, I'm like, okay, red flag. But I was doing security this last year, and it started shortly before Halloween. I think it was October 10th, and then ran until April, I believe. April or the beginning of May. And I would call my kids every night, or they'd call me before they went to bed, and they'd tell me about their dreams the night before, and so on and so forth. And Lily starts telling me this dream about a UFO in the backyard, which is only about, I would say, 5 to 8 feet away from where I'm at right now. There's these 2 really old blue spruce trees poking up back there, and she said there was a UFO back there, and it had its door open, and this alien was taking her and Floyd onto the ship, and then all of a sudden Floyd jumped off, and then she said that Floyd had tripped, and so she went back to help him, and then he popped in and said, I didn't trip, you tripped, and she's like, no, you tripped, and so they're arguing back and forth, and then they finally come to a conclusion as to who tripped. I believe it was Floyd, and then she started laughing, and she said, do you remember when you jumped on that alien's head? And he started laughing too, and they thought it was really funny. But then at that point, I'm like, okay, this isn't a dream she had. I think this is a shared experience because they both remember the same details. So to me, that was pretty interesting. And I'm like, what the crack are they doing with my kids? And have we been abducted? Like, a lot of people don't even know until they get past life regressions. Have you or Melissa or anybody on your team ever done a past life regression?
Man, I don't. I know that we've talked about it. I know me and Travis had some really deep conversations about it. And actually, a friend of ours out in Virginia, when we visited, we went and seen Cheryl, had said that Melissa used to be if I'm correct, it was a Roman soldier or some sort that had a really bad habit of not holding her mouth, but she was a dude. So he had a really bad habit of not keeping his mouth closed. He just said whatever was on his mind. He ended up getting killed for it. And she actually said that was part of her past life. And she said something about my past life kind of brought her to the Mayflower, and which I found really kind of profound because she doesn't know anything about me. And come to find out, like I just met this lady, and come to find out, I've actually my grandma did as far back as I think like 1300s, and we're actually related to Miles Standish, the captain of the Mayflower. So I just thought that was pretty profound.
It is very interesting when that does happen, and my mentor Kat was telling me about how her daughter would tell her about past life things. And remember when I was a boy and you were still a lady and blah, 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 so on and so forth. And to her, she was just like, holy shnikes, no, but I'll believe you. And then when I had my youngest daughter, which only one of my kids was planned, I have 4, and she has told me so many crazy things. Okay, I walked in on her, and she's sitting in the living room on the daybed, and she's got an army lanyard that my oldest daughter got from high school when they do these job fairs. And it's an army lanyard, and she's tying it around her leg. And I was like, hey, don't do that because it's going to make your leg all tingly and stuff and fall asleep. And then it's going to feel like pins and needles. And you don't want to do that. It's going to be very uncomfortable. And she's like, but Mom, I have to tie it off or I'll bleed out. Okay, this kid is only a year old. And I'm like, okay, where do you even hear or learn terms like that? You know, this is like a military term. I have to tie it off or I'm going to bleed out. And then she'd tell me later on, remember when I was a man and I was really tall and I had blonde hair and I wore glasses and I was a nurse in the military and so on and so forth. And I was like, no, I don't remember that, but I do believe you because I want her to continue to open up and remember these things and to work on her gifts that she has. And I don't want to stall her in any way by not believing her, because I remember as a kid sharing my paranormal stories, and my aunt, who is now my mom, she adopted me last May. She used to shut me down. She does not like the paranormal. She still does not. She doesn't want to hear any sort of ghost stories or anything like that. And she would tell me to quit making up stories, quit trying to scare her kids, so on and so forth. And that's not what I was trying to do. I was just trying to share my experiences with my little cousin, who's now my little sister, and have somebody to talk about things like that with. And of course she ran and told her mom, and her mom got pissed off at me. But these things do happen, and it's so important when your kids come to you with these things not to kind of sweep it under the rug or make light of it. Take it seriously and listen to them, because they need that backup. They need to know that there is somebody there to support them. You know what I mean?
100%. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't have any kids, but I definitely understand what you're saying, for sure. I guess we were asked a question earlier, and I'm trying to find it. Let me see.
I think it was it a kick toy? And somebody said to write it in caps? Okay, I see. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so he said, this is for both of you. How do you balance your biases and keep yourself from finding what you're looking for because it is what you want to find. For me, when I go into an investigation, I like to go in cold. Like, I don't want to hear stories of what has happened, so on and so forth, because the mind is a very powerful thing, and your subconscious could play into the fact, and you could be trying to find things that you don't necessarily realize you are trying to find subconsciously. So I like to go in cold, basically blind, not know what's going on, and then find the story for myself. And then, due to what sort of evidence I do find, I like to take it back to the person and find out if it's true or not. And for 99.9% of the time, it is. What we pick up is what's going on. So for me, I like to go in blind because I do realize the mind is a powerful thing, and I don't want to feed it information before I go in and kind of pollute my mind with what I need to find. I want to find what's actually there. What about you, Chris?
I'm right there with you, but I'm going to take it a step further and delve into that a little bit. When I hear the word bias, to me, it is more of a when you say bias, it's more of a direct way of looking at something. Okay, so if I go to the store and I look at the peanut butter, right? I'm going to go way out left field here, but just stay with me. So if I go to a store and I go in and I want peanut butter, right? And there's Jif and there's Peter Pan and something other, like chunky peanut butter, right? But I get Jif because I'm biased to Jif. That's what I like, and it's what I want to get. Okay, so bias to me would be that I'm that direct in saying this is it. This is nothing more than that. It's just what it is. So it's not really. It's easy to balance what you say bias, I say believe in, when you're, as I want to say, open-minded and not closed-minded. And I'm not saying that skeptics or anybody else that doesn't believe in what I believe is closed-minded. What I'm saying is, if I go into an investigation with an open mind, okay, not believing that as soon as I go in there, I'm going to get a shit ton of evidence, okay, if I go in there with an open mind, then it's easier for me to know that if I spend 8 hours in an investigation and I don't get anything, I understand that sometimes it doesn't happen that way. And I don't know that everything that happens paranormal in a building or wherever it is I'm at, I don't know for a fact it's a ghost. I don't know for a fact it's a spirit. Okay? It's like I've said before in this whole interview, it's a hypothesis. It's what I think. It's what it might be in my aspect of it. But if you are there with me and you can't give me a logical answer as to why what happened, and neither can I, all we can do is guess. All we can do is give the best educated guess, quote unquote hypothesis, as to why that is, and be fascinated by it. See, that's really how I balance, if that's what he's saying, balance a bias. That's really how I balance it, is I don't go into it expecting that I'm going to get all kinds of evidence. I just go in there knowing that this is what I'm looking for. If it happens, it happens. If not, I'll try again tomorrow. Okay? Like I said, I know I went off field on that peanut butter thing, but really, honestly, if you don't give yourself a chance to at least experience it, I'll go on the flip side of that. You talk about bias. There are skeptics out there that no matter what they see, they could see the craziest thing out there that nobody can explain, and they're just not going to believe that was paranormal or anything. They're just going to say that it's impossible, that can't happen. To me, that's a bias. A bias is not having an open mind as to the fact that could be something, different than what you think it is. Okay?
I think of bias also as like believing so strongly in something, and I've always believed in the paranormal, like before I can even remember I was having paranormal experiences. So that's why I like to go in cold, because I do believe in it so much, and I do want other people to believe, but I don't want that to be the headstone of my investigation. I want to be able to find facts and reality and find the story for this person that's lost or stuck or whatever they may be. To me, bias can be, like you said, negative, or it could be something that you wholeheartedly believe in. Like peanut butter, I love peanut butter.
Sure. Yeah, and exactly. But see, if you're describing, if the question was, if you're going in, and balance your bias. Well, if you're going to balance your bias, then if you're going to balance it, you have to be open-minded. You have to go into it just like you go into it. You say you don't want to know anything about you want to find out for yourself. Makes sense. But I guarantee you that, being the fact that you've done paranormal investigations before, you go into a place knowing, damn well that you could go into a place 7 nights in a row and 7 nights in a row get all kinds of activity, right? And then 2 nights after that, 7 nights in a row, not a damn thing happened.
Right.
But you don't think that because 2 nights in a row and not a damn thing happened, that there's no more paranormal anymore, right? You just know that, hey, that's part of it. That's part of being a paranormal investigator.
Right. Kick Toy said, bias might be the wrong term. How about preconceived ideas? Which is why, I like to go in cold, because I do believe in the paranormal. I know it happens, and it happens to so many people, and have heard different stories, even from my daughter who's moved out and had paranormal experiences at her house. I do believe it is real. I do believe it can happen, but I've gone to so many different investigations, and sometimes it's not a haunting of the house or the person. It's something that the person went through in their past that is causing these things, kind of somewhat like a poltergeist. You have to go to the root of the problem. And she had never gotten psychological help, anything like that. Her husband's being attacked. She's not, but she's still seeing things. Sometimes it's, like I said, the mind is a powerful thing, and you could be the poltergeist. This energy could be coming from you and showing itself in the house. I just watched an investigation a couple weeks ago where this house is so haunted, the lady's been kicked down the stairs, all kinds of other things. They go in, nothing happens until they bring her back into the house, and then, different EMFs and etc. are going off, and the only thing that they could say was it was the energy coming from her fears, her anxieties. Different stresses in her life were causing a poltergeist in the house. So as long as she stayed away from it, which they moved out, as long as they stayed away from it and rented it out or sold it or whatever, the people that came in would be safe. As long as she stayed away, because she was the energy for all of this activity happening.
Okay. I got no complaints here from what you just said. I guess I don't know. I like debating. I love debating, and this is why I love doing what I do.
I'm a master debater.
Oh yeah. I see what you did there.
But on that note, we do have to go to our second break. You guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this musical break.
Waiting here on this cold, lonely night without you. The tension's overbearing. Wondering, are you coming back home again? To inspire fondness with love. Where did our love go wrong? My sugar. Why did I make you cry? Whispers flow through my mind when I think about you. did our love go wrong, my sugar? The perfect day, yeah. Living at the dark, I search lonely streets to find hidden shadows in the dark. It doesn't matter what I say. Secret homicides arranged in a series of pursuits. No matter what I say. Face because she had the range. I knew she was the one that never could go home again. Plastic lights like limo seats. I don't know why I can't control this urge to hurt again. Yeah. Living at the dark, I search lonely streets to find hidden shadows in the dark. Forever after. No matter what I say, after dark. Feeling ran to arguments and fear. Behind a place with days of December. Concerning works. It doesn't matter what I say. It really doesn't. No matter what I say. After dark. It doesn't matter what I say. Secret homicides arranged in a series of pursuits. No matter what I say, shades in the sky, murder forever after. It doesn't matter what I say, rude and fatal, lacking the hint of conscience. No matter what I say, after dark.
Buckets back to back like I was Stefan. Better yet, I'm Phil Jackson, so don't treat me like the next man. And I'm kind of a real big deal, so don't be out here second guessing. Anyway, I make my pay and live this California lifestyle. Sunshine, loud packs, and chicks that love to get wild. That's how we do it every day. Slipping, sliding through the traffic on a mission for the day. Clearing marks about my way. Really got no time for y'all today. And all the craziness y'all talk, but never get your story straight. See me out here living great. I don't give a about all they hate. And when it comes to kicking game, I give you all that you can take. Trying to do it big, got no complaints. Every morning eating steak. They say I'm wrong for showing out, but I'ma do it anyway. Plus and thing ain't nothing, bitch, cause I can do it any day. And it don't matter where I go, I always represent the yay. I'm so in love love with this lifestyle. Anything I want, I say the word, I get it right now. Boppers used to hate me, now they tell me I'm a tight now. Swagger through the roof, got everybody on my height now. So love with this lifestyle. And I love it, and I love it, and I love it. So love with this lifestyle. Anything I want, I say the word, I get it right now. See me, I'm out here getting it and loving how I live. Best believe if I do something, I'm a stupid do it big. And this hustling is my gig, so don't you ask me what I stand for. Stacking while I'm macking, trying to earn myself a couple Lambos. Yeah, you know them toys for them big boys. Emperor of sorts and all you other players decoys. Meaning you're not the real deal. Keep an appetite for dollars that I never miss a meal. All you suckers need to chill. I'm just trying to stack a meal and pull the baddest bras around and let us show they sex appeal. Little bit of Netflix, then we chill. Lose them clothes, keep on them heels. Working like a 9 to 5 and go right back to chasing skrill. I bring that real, never that phony. BS, y'all be stressing, put it down just like an OG. Perform these cookies, take flight. Some of y'all just out here acting. I'm a boss in real life. I'm so in love with this lifestyle. Anything I want, I say the word, I get it right now. Boppers used to hate me, now they tell me I'm a tight now. Swagger through the roof, got everybody on my height now. So in love with this lifestyle. I love it, and I love it, and I love it. So in love with this lifestyle. Anything I want, I say the word, I get it right now. Keep it more 100 than a C note. Hall of Fame spitting, representing with these pimp quotes. Don't try to front, you know this shit's dope. Question is, will I ever fail? My answer is no. I make this hustling look amazing. Put it down, doper than a blunt of purple hazing. Spicy on the mic, I bring the fire like a Cajun. Scovilles, making haters sweat when I be blazing. Leaning to the side, haters everywhere. Yeah, I hear them talking, but they simply wasting air. Can't understand the reason that they stay in my affairs. But I'm major with my movements, getting money everywhere. I'm so in love with this lifestyle. Anything I want, I say the word, I get it right now. Boppers used to hate me, now they tell me I'm a type now. Swagger through the roof, got everybody on my height now. So in love with this lifestyle. And I love it, and I love it, and I love it. So in love with this lifestyle. Anything I want, I say the word, I get it right now. I love it, so in love with this lifestyle. I love it, and I love it, and I love it. So in love with this lifestyle. Anything I want, I say the word, I get it right now.
And we have Blast Off. Welcome back to We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. Tonight we are joined by Dark Hunters Paranormal, Chris Chappell. Hey Chris, welcome back and thanks so much for hanging out with us tonight.
Hey, thanks for having me again. So I would just like to kind of feed off of what we ended the last break on, and that was one of our chat guests had asked about bias or preconceived ideas. To me, and this is just my perception of it, so like a preconceived idea would be, you know, something that is instilled in your brain that you, you know, for instance, if something happens to you, you believe that is going to happen all the time. I believe that the way I can in my experience is, like I said, I don't go in to a investigation with a preconceived idea that this is a ghost, this is a spirit, this is paranormal. But I do go into the fact that if I see something, you know, that I can't explain, that's not a preconceived idea. I can't explain it. So it fascinates me. It's intriguing. It's something that I am intrigued by. Having a preconceived idea would be, I go into a place, something happens, and I automatically jump to the fact that that's paranormal. I automatically say that's paranormal without even trying to debunk it, without even trying to say, you know, without even trying to find the facts behind it. Okay. Whenever I see something that I can't explain, I literally go through all of the motions to try to find out a reason why that happened before I say, well, it's got to be that. But I mean, that can be with anything. If you don't have, if nothing's ever happened to you that you can't explain, then of course you're going to go into a place and things can happen all night long, and you're just going to assume that that's just the shit that happens. you're not going to think it's paranormal because it's never happened to you. So I wouldn't really call that, like I said, I wouldn't call that a preconceived idea. A preconceived idea would be me going into a place and assuming that everything that happens that I hear without even trying to debunk it would be paranormal. So I hope that answered your question, Kick. I hope that, like I said, I kind of took your words and, identified them the best I could. And I hope Tessa answered your question as well. And I appreciate you guys doing this with us tonight too. Thanks for asking the questions and getting involved. It's really cool.
And Chris was saying on break, people are having issues calling in, which is really weird. I just did a Skype update the last show, and everything went fine. But instead of adding the 1, maybe try 970-335-9596. Perhaps that'll work. If it doesn't, add the 1. But definitely try to call in. You can also look me up on Skype at Tessa Thomas Peterson. And try to call us that way, but generally it hasn't been an issue for call-ins, so that's really weird. And it also makes me think back on different shows I've had and different energies, and sometimes we do have tech issues like this because there's so much going on as far as paranormal energy and whatnot, but hopefully we can get them in, because I know people want to call in and ask questions, and I would love to hear from them, but that is insane. I'm hoping they get through, for real. Try again. Try again.
Yes, please call. We love the interaction. I know I do. I know Tessa loves, people to call in and ask questions, and that's what makes this fun for me. I love people getting involved.
So have you and your team ever gone on an investigation? And I know you were talking about somebody that got really, really sick, but have you had anybody kind of taken over by a spirit on the job, or has anybody had a Klingon or a spirit go with them home and kind of harass them for a little bit and then leave, trying to keep them from finding answers and clearing the place? A lot of times people want to clear the place. A lot of times they just want to know what they're dealing with so they can peacefully cohabitate. There could be different variations of it.
Yeah, the biggest problem I have doing private investigations is, people think because, I'm a paranormal investigator and I go to all these different places, that are supposedly quote unquote haunted and stuff like that. People think that when I do their private investigations, that all these spirits are attached to me. And if anything happens when I leave their house, then it's automatically, me and Melissa brought it in and we brought it with us. What the problem with that is, people, at least what we... Not really sick, but have you had anybody
on the job or has...
can you...
We have a caller. Mute yourself really quick so Chris can finish what he's saying, and then we'll have you right on. Area code 931.
All right.
All right, cool. So what I was saying is, so like me and Melissa, we've been doing this for a long time. Is there still somebody in the background talking?
Yeah, hold on 1 second. Yeah, just mute your mic real quick. Put the slash through your mic, and then we'll get to you in just a second. Just be patient with us. Go ahead. Sorry, Chris.
No problem. So anyways, so we can get to the callers, we know what we're doing. We're not going to, intentionally bring spirits to your house. Does it happen? Sure. I mean, some things we can't control, but we do bless ourselves. We do, use sage and stuff that we believe in. There's certain things that we do, and we have friends that give us things that protect us as well. So, in essence, that's kind of one of the things that we deal with when we do private investigation, is someone's always saying, you guys brought this with it. Well, that's not necessarily true. Maybe, we just kind of, stirred it up because they don't like us or something like that. So, 100%,
Right?
exactly.
They had a haunting in the first place. That's why they called. I was muted, so I had to repeat myself. But here we go with our first caller, area code 931. Who are we talking to?
Hi, guys. This is Chris's favorite singer, Him.
Hi, Him.
Hey, buddy.
I'm a little hoarse, so sorry about that. We had a lot of screaming today. But
Right.
Chris, man, you sound great. And Tessa, thanks for taking my call.
No worries. Thanks so much
thanks.
for calling in. Did you have issues
Yeah,
before
so-
trying to get through, or was this your first?
Yeah, I'm kind of a genius, and I was dialing the 1, so it wasn't getting through. They'll do it every time.
You got it. You're through. I'm so glad. I'm so glad.
Yeah, so I'm definitely fascinated with what you guys are talking about. It's a great conversation. I was just kind of wondering, what's your kind of your dream place where if you could go investigate anywhere on the planet, where would you guys both go to investigate?
I'll let you answer that one first, Tessa, and then I'll go.
Okay, I was going to pass it on to you because you're his new teammate, but for me,
New
one of the
family
places-
member. New family member.
That's right, and I love that. I'm so glad you said that because that's the best. Not a new team member, a new family member, and family is so important. I'm so glad you guys found each other and that you hired him. He was saying he was going for tryouts. I knew he was going to get it, but I'm so excited you guys are together now, and I've heard so many good things so far.
Yeah, he was a perfect fit. He came in and the chemistry was awesome. And then, he tells me when we first meet, that he's not an idea guy. He doesn't get very many ideas. And then he calls me and he gives me 500,000 ideas, and now I can't sleep at night all the time. So
I was about to say that's BS. He's got ideas all the time, hence the reason he can't sleep, and he's got other things going on too. But yeah, we always try to downgrade ourselves, but I'm sure he's full of all kinds of ideas.
Yeah, all the time, and it's great, man. That's what you want, is somebody that's going to come in and like you guys were talking about ego earlier. Ego ruins so many things. You don't have to be the one that came up with the great idea, and other people should recognize you for great ideas, but you don't have to be the one. As the singer and the bass player and the guy who started the band, I don't have to be the guy who takes all the credit for everything. I can say with no ego that him didn't come up with that idea. I did.
Right.
And Chris will get that one.
Yeah.
My husband's a bass player, and he rules all.
There you go. That's how it works. Bass players should rule everything. That's how it should go.
Well, it's amazing, like, watching the band, and you don't have to even say anything to each other. Like, you kind of pick up on that chemistry or telecommunication or whatever. You know when you're supposed to hit the beats together and so on and so forth, and it's kind of like telecommunication across the board as far as just signals and stuff like that. It's amazing to watch.
Yeah, and as much as I say, I'm Chris and I debate a little bit back and forth and get fun about all kinds of things. And I'm kind of the skeptic, so I'm over his shoulder sometimes going, I don't know about that. Here's what I kind of think, and we battle that back and forth a little bit because it's good constructive talk. But when you're in a band, there's a spiritual component in there. There's a telepathy that you gain after a little while. It's kind of you connect in this weird way where you're all on the same page, and that energy flows between all three of you, and you can just read what each other are doing. We had that first practice today, and Chris will tell you there were moments there where it was just pure magic, and those get better and better as you go. So
I wish I could.
Can you explain why that is, Kick?
I wish I could have been a fly on the wall to witness that. Because it's so amazing.
You can't explain why that is, and that's kind of gets to my point that that I was trying to talk about. I think the word I used was bias, which is really kind of the wrong word. Bias implies like a lot of people think bias means that you have this preconceived notion of like I don't like this or I don't like that, and what I think I really mean is do you have the ability to say I don't know? Or the ability to say there isn't something when clearly there isn't, instead of, people will look for things like in a relationship or in a relationship is a perfect example. In this case, you're looking at a relationship between two people, and you try to find all the positives and you overlook the negatives. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's a bias in there. You're overlooking because love or because friendship or because whatever. Whereas if you're balancing the bias, like I was trying to say, I think is do you look at it logically? Like when you go into an investigation, for example, you walk in and you go, this place is old, therefore spiritual energy. Or do you walk in and go, this place is old, that's it.
Right.
Other than that, we don't know anything. And I think skeptics are just as guilty as anyone of that, of going in and saying, oh, well, it's scientifically da-da-da-da-da, instead of just saying, you know what, I have no idea. And I'm willing to experience it to find out what that is, and maybe you and I can come together and say, hey, you know what, that bucket that Chris talked about earlier flew across the room, and we can both go, well, we don't know if it's spiritual or a ghost or whatever, but what can we do together to find out without either one of us having the I'm right, where you become invincibly ignorant to the other person, you know, where you refuse to see their side. And that's kind of what I was getting at with that question.
Well, yeah, and there's nothing wrong with saying, I don't know. That's way better than what I learned in high school, and my English teacher was like, if you don't know the answer, baffle with bullshit. And to me, that's lying.
Yeah, that's right.
And making shit up. And I don't like to do that. I don't like to lie, even if it's a little white lie or just keeping the truth from somebody. Like, that to me is causing more barriers in my way than if I were to come out and say the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I love it when people say that.
To add to your point on that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, to add to your point on that too is, you know, there's the most experienced people know what they don't know, and that's the hardest thing to come to, is knowing what you don't know. Is as much as I've experienced on this planet and as many things as I might know, when it comes to this realm, if Chris and I are sitting in the room and that jug flies across the room like you talked about, I know enough to go, okay, I'm lost. I have no explanation for what that is. And that's the most humble, that's where you come back to egos, is can you sidestep your ego long enough to say, you know what, I have no idea. Right. And a lot of people can't do that.
There's nothing wrong with
and
that. You don't have to know everything. Go ahead, Chris.
I just wanted to tag on to that too, and that's kind of where I was answering your question before about the preconceived idea. Is there are people, and I think maybe that's why you came up with that word. Is there are people, especially, and I'm not throwing anybody on the bus, but some of the, and that's kind of where me and Tessa have an issue, because not we have an issue, but as investigators who think on the same lines of what we go into an investigation for, there are people out there that are I would call them blasphemous or exaggerate or whatever, and don't go into a investigation with, number one, an open mind, and number two, trying. I mean, the whole goal of what we do is not to immediately say that everything that we see that we can't explain is paranormal. The whole point is for us to find out why it's happening, okay? Whether it be paranormal, whether it not be. And that is why I use the word debunk. We use that word as saying, okay, this is what happened. Can I find a reason why it happened? As soon as I find a legitimate scientific or legitimate reason that someone either believes in the paranormal or doesn't believe in the paranormal, that this is why that happened, that's debunked. Okay, it's definitely not paranormal. It's definitely not something that I cannot explain, which is why when something happens, we call it paranormal, just because that's the field that we're in. But I would do the same thing with you. Like, for instance, you're a skeptic. I would do the same thing with you as I would say Zach Baggins sitting here. Okay, Zach Baggins, is. I know, hon. I know. No, I feel you. I feel you 100%. So Zach Baggins is sitting next to me, and that Stanley thermos gets thrown across the room. Okay, he goes, "Demon! That was a freaking demon!" Right? And I'm like, no, let's think this through. Okay, why did that happen? I'm going to do the same thing with him as I'm going to do with you, I'm still going to try to figure out why the hell that happened. Because even though the difference between, say him, me, and you is you haven't seen something that you're willing to maybe say, I don't, well, maybe or maybe not. I'm at the point where I can accept the fact that something can happen that isn't paranormal, but I can also accept the fact that something just happened that nor I nor the biggest quantum physics or scientists can sit here in the same room with me and say why that happened. And if I can't get a legitimate answer, I'm calling it paranormal because I can't explain it. And that is to me right there, that whole situation, that each side of that spectrum is why it's so fascinating for me, is because you get all those sides. But then when you get that person like me that is willing to be, like I said before, open-minded to the fact that if something happened and it can be explained, I'm willing to say absolutely that's why that happened. Okay, I'm not automatically going to jump and argue with you that was paranormal. If you could prove, or if we could both see that wasn't paranormal, and that's where I think that some of these TV shows that are getting ratings to do stupid shit. It makes people like us look bad, which is why, if you look around the whole industry, ticket sales are down. A lot of people aren't really into the paranormal as they should be. It really is a falter right now. And I think a lot of that is because of the people that go out there and exaggerate, because of the people that everything that happens, no matter what it is defined as paranormal. They don't try to debunk. They don't try to find an answer for it, and that's what frustrates me. I'm completely fine if you want to be that person. That's completely cool. That if that makes you feel good, cool. And I'm not going to down you for it. Everybody does their thing, but there are, like I said, there are people out there that truly have an intrigue and a fascination for it, and that really want answers. I mean, if you're really into the paranormal, if you're really into going to these historic places and getting answers, wouldn't you want factual answers? Wouldn't you want answers that actually did good and not just, oh, well, this is what it was. It has to be, whatever it is. That's really what we go towards, and that's why I kind of go back to everybody kind of putting their evidence together, to see if we do have answers. Because right now there are people out there that listen to this podcast or listen to the radio or hear or go to one of our events and just laugh at our asses and think, oh, yeah, I guess it is a ghost, huh? You know what I'm saying? So that's really why I do what I do, because I can sit here and have an open mind, and I know Tessa can too. I know Tessa believes in a lot of spiritual stuff and a lot of spirits, and I do too as well because I've seen them. But on the same token, I'm not going to tell you, just because if I see something and you see it and you say it's not that, I'm not going to try to change your mind. I'll just be like, well, you don't see it like me. This is how I see it. It's definitely paranormal. I can't explain it. You sure as shit can't explain it. But if you choose not to believe it, that's your, as you call, bias or your preconceived idea, because you choose not to have an open mind and say that isn't. But I'm not saying all skeptic people are closed-minded. I'm just saying that some people refuse to say things happen that you can't frickin' explain.
Well, it does.
Yeah, well, and skeptics can be worse than anyone about that too. Because of science, I know blah blah blah. And so the reason that the thing flew off the table is 3 squirrels and a lawnmower, and you're like, well, I didn't see 3 squirrels and a lawnmower. So, they'll make up things because of their bias too, and that's bad because again, that comes back to ego, and that makes both sides look bad.
Yes.
Well, yeah, and it's
100%.
complicated, too, like you were saying with ZB, or as I like to refer to him as Dildo Baggins. He'll sit there, and Aaron will have an experience, and Aaron is very open, and spirits are constantly trying to communicate with him. And Aaron will say, oh, I feel this or that, and then all of a sudden Zach's like, oh, I'm possessed, and get the fuck away from me, and so on and so forth. Like, give me a freaking break. And, somebody was saying not too long ago that has been on the History Channel, so on and so forth. Like, a lot of these people that are on these shows are not really paranormal investigators. They're actors. Look at the Actors Guild. You'll find their name on there. They're not paranormal investigators. They're actors pretending to be paranormal investigators. And I kind of think that's what Zach is, even though I think he's gotten into it and he has started his own museum and he's got all these haunted relics and stuff, which I would like to check out. At the same time, you know, the whole thing that my teacher taught me, if you don't know the answer, baffle with bullshit. Like, to me, that's not cool because, people are getting tired of that, like you said. They're getting sick of this happening, and for some reason my Skype is just a white screen. It's really weird. This has never happened before.
I blame
somebody's
Ron
trying to
J
call
in your
in.
chat. I think he crashed it.
Damn it, Ron J! But seriously, like, don't baffle with bullshit. Like, come out with the truth. And sometimes things happen and sometimes things don't. And don't make it what it isn't, because people get tired of being lied to. They don't want to be lied to. They want to have an actual paranormal experience. They don't want to be baffled with bullshit. Don't tell me any stories.
Well,
don't
and
tell
that
me
comes
lies.
down to ego. That comes down to ego, to take it kind of all the way back to your very beginning, the dark side. You're talking about suicide and that kind of thing, you know. That all comes down to ego. A lot of people are depressed because other people have too much ego to be kind to other people. Of just, like, how many times have you seen a stranger who just didn't look like they were having a good day, and you said, "Hey, sir, you look like you're having a terrible day. What's wrong?"
Yeah.
You have too much ego to ask that person that, because that person
Or
doesn't
are you
know
okay?
me, and I don't know them. Yeah, and you know, just sometimes just saying "Are you okay?" to a stranger is not as a. I don't want to put this out as a brag, because that's what it'll sound like, but this happens. My girlfriend and I go to restaurants all the time. Okay, and we just did this the other night. We'll see a senior citizen sitting by themselves, and we might try to talk to them, or if they're far enough away, we might not. But what we will do is, we see them sitting alone, we'll quietly go up to the counter and say, "Hey, you know what? I want to pay for their meal." And we never tell them who did it. We tell the wait staff not to tell them who did it, just to tell them that somebody thought of them for a minute, and we bought them a meal.
You're right.
Because it's a kind thing to do. Somebody's sitting there by themselves. You don't know their story. You don't know anything about them. And if you can get over your own ego long enough to go, "Well, I'm not giving that person money," you know, they might be a drug addict, or they might also just be having a bad day. And you might have just brightened up their day. And if you didn't, they might have went, "Huh, well, that was nice. I'll pay for somebody else's meal." And positive energy goes a long way.
Just
Whereas
put it out
negative
there.
energy goes way. And if you think about how the world works, negative energy travels so much easier than positive energy.
It seems like
You can
it,
do
right?
10 good things, but one bad thing will undo all of those.
It'll topple your dominoes.
That's right. And so that's what, in my view, and I'm speaking just my view, because I do not have depression, and I won't pretend to understand it, because that would be an insult at people who do.
You kind of do,
But
it
in my
sounds like.
view,
You kind of
I just
understand
think,
it. I think you do understand it, even
I
though
don't-
you're not dealing with it. It seems to me like you have an open heart, and you do, maybe you're empathic to a certain extent, but you don't realize it. But you're picking up on people's energies and such, and you can feel when somebody needs that.
Yeah, to a degree. I mean, I wouldn't take that to the kind of woo part of it, as even just
Woo!
as a, you know, like as a, right? Even just as a human being, you know, we're all connected. Energy is a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can tell, I mean, body language and just observing people, you know, what I find, this goes back to the ego part, is that a lot of people, like right now, I'm talking and I'm telling you what I'm saying, but are you, if you think about it, are you actually listening to what I'm saying, or are you waiting to find the next thing to say?
Or are
And
you
a lot of people
listening
are
to
doing
your
that.
inner monologue? Are you listening to your
Yeah.
inner monologue and not hearing what I'm saying to you right now? That's a big issue. I'm hearing
That's
what
right.
you're saying, but I talk to people all the time, and I'm like, okay, so are you really hearing me, or are you really listening to your inner monologue and then talking over people? There's a big issue there too.
That's right. And and does your ego allow you to really listen to somebody, to really hear them, or are you just waiting for your turn to speak?
Right.
And if you are, then great. I have this is and this goes to just simple things like why men get into fights at bars is because once your ego is checked, you can't back down.
Right.
And no man wants to go to another man and go, hey, you know what? You could probably beat me to death. I'm sorry I stepped on your foot.
Right.
You know, and it's that easy of stepping back from your ego and say, and weirdly enough, I'm a singer, so you know how many singers it takes to screw in a light bulb, right?
Yeah. Not a singer. Everybody
Just
around
one.
them
We
to
hold it up
rotate
and
them.
let the whole world revolve around it.
Yeah.
So you know, but when you think about it, you know, if you can step back from that ego and be kind to people, I think there would be more positive energy. And really, to the end of it, you guys would be out of business investigating paranormal stuff, because I think that's where a lot of that stuff comes from is residual negative energy. Suicides especially, because they're so horrible and there's so many bad emotions there, and so many negative things contribute to make a person want to end their life.
Right.
And it's all ego. It's your ego of saying I'm not good enough when you are. It's everyone's ego around you that's been trolling you and beating on you and not being kind to you, and you're just not getting a break.
And it's not
easy
just one big
to
thing.
think of that.
Like you're saying, it could be a lot of little bitty things just added together, cumulated to have this effect.
Yes. Exactly. I heard a quote the other day. I think it was on Facebook. Somebody quoted it was this little old lady was in a store, and she bought this kid's college books. And they were like, no, don't do that. But she did it out of the kindness of her heart. And she told the lady behind the counter that she failed as a mother. Her son was a meth addict. And she felt like if she bought this kid's books, that would undo all the negatives she did. And she said, you know, we hurt people in so many insignificant little ways every day with things you say that you don't even realize. And you can't ever take those back. You can't. It's negative energy. It's that ego of saying, excuse me, or thank you, or please, or yes sir, no sir, or hey. As an example, you know, I on my regular job I do technical work for cell phones, and so people call in and they'll complain and they'll yell and they'll scream, but nobody will wait on hold to compliment you.
Right.
And when was the last time you waited to compliment somebody? When was the last time you went to a restaurant and you had a really good waitress and all you did was throw the tip money on the table? When was the last time you called their manager over and said, hey, you know what? Carla served me like nobody in this restaurant.
Right.
People don't do that. They don't have time for that. But they'll sit on hold for 4.5 hours to say, Carla sucked and she should have given me free food.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the negativity that causes those things. And I think, you know, back to our original point of biases, and when people think of biases, they think of that because of ego. And you go into things with the preconceived notion because of ego. And these guys that you're talking about that have evidence they don't want to share, and these guys on TV that, you know, reality TV, but we all know that when you put a camera in front of it, it's no longer reality, it's scripted.
Right.
And so those guys are ruining what you do, and they make people who are skeptics want to not believe and not, you know, because you guys are silly, you know, because that ego of, you know what, I can't just sit back and have a good time with a bunch of friends and maybe experience something that I can't explain because I'm too smart for that. You know what I mean? And that's what I think it all comes down to, honestly.
Well, I feel bad for you working in the cell phone industry because I know I've called in and had issues, and I'm angry, but it's up to the person on the other end to
no, it's great.
make my day better. And it's not their fault, you know, just like the waitress. It's not her fault. It's the cook's fault, or so on and so forth. Like, it's not your fault.
Yeah.
And so for you to come in a kind manner at somebody who's really frustrated and angry, like, that's a gift. For real. Like, to be able to lighten up that heart and make them have a better day.
You have to. It's about that negativity, you know, all that hate swirling around just causes ugly things, right, Chris?
I'm just waiting for my turn to talk. No, I'm just kidding.
he's like, man, I told this guy to call in just to say hi, and he's taking over my show.
No, not at all. I just thought it was funny to say that.
Right?
But yeah, that was my root thing of the question. You know, I didn't mean it as like a, you know, you guys run into this and just go, well, there's going to be ghosts, and you know what I mean. That's kind of the not what I wanted to put out into the universe for you, but more like a how do you keep from falling into the trap of I found what I'm looking for, like all scientists do, because that's basically what you're trying to do is science here is find investigations in a positive way, and so that we have positive results that result in being able to prove this theory. And every scientist falls into that trap. If I'm looking for something, I will find it.
And that's why I like when Chris says hypotheses. Like, science was my favorite, besides art, science was my favorite subject in school. And hypothesis, it just goes along with it. This is my hypothesis of why this happened. And there's so many different variations, like we said before, and it's just an amazing, remarkable field. Mm-hmm. We're constantly learning, and there's no experts in the field. And, it's very amazing and intriguing. So many different things going on, and so many different variations. There's a variety, a plethora of paranormal. A plethora.
But sorry to call in and kind of hijack the show from you. But so the final question I'll leave you guys with is, what's your dream investigation? If you could go anywhere, money was no object, like fantasy, like I would love to go to that place and explore. And I'll leave you guys with that and just say this: Chris, you sound awesome. I love you, brother. And Tessa, I love your show so far. Thanks for letting me call in and talk.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, bro. Right? Love you, man.
Him?
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm so glad you called in. What is your bucket list? And then we'll go from there. Your bucket list place that you would go.
Wow. Man, I'm really hoping that the place that I'm about to say, I will be able to go. Melissa and I are actually going to Ireland in April of next year. And
what?
I promised Melissa that I would take her to Ireland before she turned 40.
I have a suitcase I can fit in, because I want to go back to where my roots are. I have roots here and I have roots there, because I'm Irish Cherokee. Yeah, that's one place I want to go. So I have a suitcase. You guys can just take me with you in the suitcase. Okay,
very cool. So anyway, before her 40th birthday, so April of next year we're going. And if you do any type of, research on Scotland or Ireland or anything, you know that they have some of the most beautiful castles there and stuff. And to be honest with you, I would just love to investigate that. But that's not really because I'm going to do that next year, so I'm gonna go ahead and say that. But I would say if I was able to do something, and I can't do it right now because I don't have the means, and I have not invented anything in order to do this, but because I was in the service and I was in the Navy, I've always been fascinated with water. I love water. I love to swim. I love water. And I've always wanted to find, and there's a joke now, there's supposed to be this TV show coming out where they do ghost hunts underwater, and it's bullshit. It's not going to come out. It's probably not going to do very good. But I really want to invent something, and I don't know what it is yet, but I would love to do an investigation underwater, because there are so many people. Am I still here, or did I lose you? Okay, so there's so many people that have been lost at sea, that have been murdered, that have been taken out to water and dropped. And, there's just so much stuff that we don't know that's in the water. And I think that it'd be really cool to do some type of an underwater paranormal investigation. I just don't know how to do it or how I could go about it. I'm sure there's somebody out there that says, well, all you have to do is this. It's not that easy. I've done a lot of research on how to do it, and there's a lot of kind of things that are stopping me from doing it because it doesn't work out. So to answer his question, on my bucket list, I would love to go somewhere in the sea, underwater, and do an investigation. Yeah.
Well, that's interesting because there's so many crash sites, so on and so forth, as far as Titanic and back in the day when people are trying to find new lands where they crash on coral or whatever else. So that's interesting, like how many spirits are stuck down there underwater where nobody goes to communicate, Are they just kind of glurging around down there? But yeah, even Kicktoy said on a sunken ship, hell yeah. For me, it kind of goes back to my roots, and my mom was very into the paranormal. She was very gifted. She could not only talk to, but she could hear and see and so on and so forth, different spirits. She'd actually go to the graveyard and smoke joints and communicate with them. But she took us to the Crescent Hotel. And so for me, one of my bucket lists and one of the first places I want to go, if I didn't have to pay for it, so on and so forth, would be the Crescent Hotel and try to figure out what's going on with the girl there and the guy that helped to build it that died building it. And yeah, that would be amazing. I'd like to check that out because as a kid, I'm sitting on a bench and my mom's taking pictures and she's probably trying to see if anything comes through on film, but I didn't see anything in the pictures. But it was very haunted. I remember feeling kind of uncomfortable, and my sister-in-law, who's married to my second oldest brother, she wants to go there for her birthday. I just haven't been able to make it out to Arkansas when her birthday is, so I'm hoping when I go out, she'll want to do a belated birthday thing. So hopefully I'll get to do that this trip to Arkansas and Tennessee and New Orleans and back to Arkansas, but it'll be pretty awesome if we can. But I'm so excited to go to New Orleans. Have you been there yet?
No, we're going to go. We actually want to do some of the vampire tours there that they have. But yeah, we're definitely going to go here very soon.
We're going down there to meet Chad and Alta Dillon, and they wrote the book Orbducted in the French Quarter, where they went out, I believe it was for Alta's birthday, and it was just a really weird night all around, and they went to different bars, and generally in New Orleans it'd be hopping, and nothing was happening, and they're meeting these weird, or seeing these weird different people, and then all of a sudden they see this bright light, and they're abducted, which they call it Orbducted because it was an alien orb, which makes me happy that I didn't step out on my back porch and go to see what this thing was. I just stepped out and stepped back in my house, and I didn't know what this orb wanted, but they got abducted and had these really crazy experiences, all three of them, Chad and Alta and their friend that they used to work with. So I'm very intrigued. I've always wanted to go to New Orleans, and I've always wanted to go during Mardi Gras, party time, but it's going to be interesting to be there when there's not a lot of people, all these energies intersecting with what you're trying to do, and to get kind of a read on what they picked up on, and hopefully not get orbducted is the plan. But we'll see what happens. I'm so excited.
Hey, can you do me a favor? He's really irritating me, and I want to know what the hell he's talking about.
Okay, hold on. Yeah, he, I guess, tried to call in, but it's not working. But I heard from somebody else the other night that his Skype is broken. I'm going to try to go over here. Every time I go here, it's like a blank screen. I don't know what the hell is going on. All I see is Skype in the left-hand corner, and then the rest of the screen is white. Hold on. Uno momento, por favor. Let me see if I can figure this out.
Sure.
So, also when I go down to New Orleans trying to multitask, as I'm looking for this, I'm going to be talking about that. I want to go to the graveyard and try to find Jim Morrison and Jimi Hendrix and whoever else I can find did you see that picture of, oh my gosh. I can't believe I can't remember his name right now. He just passed away. He sang Last Dance with Mary Jane. Oh God, I can't believe I can't remember his name right now. One more time to kill the pain.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so my computer's not working on this. I'm going to try.
Oh, Tom Petty.
Yes, Tom Petty. Okay, so Tom Petty went and he took a picture in front of Jim Morrison's grave, which everybody's buried above ground because of the flooding, so on and so forth. And he's got his arms spread out, and you could see behind him Jim Morrison's ghost. So it makes you wonder, was this an actual picture that Tom Petty took, or did somebody take it and Photoshop it? So being I have issues on this computer, I'm going to call Ron over here. Okay, join call. Join. Okay, and then I'm going to add Ron, because Ron has been trying to call in. Hold on. We'll see if he answers.
I'm in. Oh. Hi. Oops. Hi.
Hey, Ron.
Oops. Let me fix something. I'm going to send it. I have to learn how to spell.
I know, it's weird. I don't know what's going on.
Strange brews. So, things clean. And you were irritating him, which I don't know where that comes from.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great. Oh, sorry. This is still Chris?
It is.
Okay, hey man, if you're going to Ireland, yeah, my joke there was just say, if you're going to Ireland planning to go, you better start practice drinking.
Oh, I was talking about, you said something about going to grocery store lines on a train asking questions.
Yeah,
Mine experience.
meeting people. Yes, okay, about meeting people, like randomly talking and just asking people random questions.
Absolutely.
You know,
I agree with that 100%.
For 5 or 10 minutes, it's like, hey, what's going on? You know, or...
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that 100%. I mean, I'm all about meeting people, and like Kicktoy was talking about, him was saying, I mean, it's good for you to, you know, especially someone that may look down. It might brighten up their day. You may just stop something horrible from happening just by talking to them. So I agree with that 100%.
Oh yeah, great.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
the best thing here, you know, of course, as from a guy to a guy, the easiest thing is you ask women in the grocery, or tell women in the grocery line, hey, I like those shoes. Boom, you're in.
Yeah, well, if you're married like me, you might get your shoes taken off and hit with them. So, yeah. But you're right. You're right.
No, you have to tell your wife that, well, I like the color of your toenails.
Oh yeah, definitely gotta tell her that all the time.
That keeps you in the good book.
Robin is letting us know that Tom Petty died in 2017.
What?
What?
Yes.
Was it that long already?
I think it
I
was
think
actually
it's actually this last year.
I think it was
I'm getting-
2018.
I think it was 2018.
Back. Oops.
Mm.
Let me Google
Let
it.
me Google it.
So,
That'd be cool.
Ron, did you have a question?
a question?
Hello?
Hello?
So that's right.
So
It was
that's right. It was
October 2nd,
2nd,
2017.
2017.
Somebody's microphone is too hot because there's a big echo. I plugged my earphones in.
Well, I think this
Earbuds.
might work better because I had to call you on this computer, but for some reason you're on my main computer, which I couldn't get you on there because it was just a white screen, which I've never had happen. So that was really weird.
That's the power of Ron.
But I added.
But you're
I
clear.
joined
You're
the call.
clear now.
Yeah, I joined the call and I added you to that, and then I heard the echo, and then I turned it off, and I can still hear you. So I don't know what the F is going on. It's really strange. But I'm used to it.
Looks like my time is almost up tonight.
Right. We have T-minus 1 minute and counting. So where can our listeners find you and your group and follow what you're doing and your general comedic and musical casts?
Okay, so check us out on Dark Hunters Paranormal LLC on Facebook. All right, darkhuntersparanormal.com to purchase any of our shirts or check out where our new investigations are going to be. Please go to our Facebook and share your paranormal group, things that you're interested in. It's an open forum, so we're about helping everybody else. Your music, all stuff. Kicktoy, you guys can find us at kicktoy.com, and we have we're going to have all of our new music re-recorded up here very soon. So yeah, just check us out, guys, and help each other, be nice to each other, love each other. That's all I got to say. And stay haunted. That's really it, man. And live life to the fullest.
Oh,
Go
that's
to
so
Nova
true.
Scotia. If you want ghosts, go to Nova Scotia.
Nova Scotia. Okay, I would definitely check
you
that
betcha,
out.
Sir.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much, Chris, for being my guest tonight and joining us on Late Night in the Rockies this evening and just hanging out with me and discussing a plethora of things, and Ron's being the cheerleader in the background. Thank you, Ron.
Yes. And just so everybody knows, if you're going to join the after show in the comment section, if you want to talk to me, I am under the Paranormal Corner. So that's me. If you guys want to have any questions that you didn't get to ask during the show, I'll be in the chat room as Paranormal Corner for a little while. So
That's
Great.
awesome. I was wondering who that was, and I think somebody else was wondering who that was, but now we know. We have been...
the secret is out.
It's out.
Kicktoy just said kicktoyrocks.com. Kicktoyrocks.com is where you can find our music.
Hell yeah. Kicktoyrocks.com. Thank you again, Chris. It's been amazing. And thank you to all of our listeners on We Are Paradox Media, Facebook, Spreaker, Twitter, Periscope, iHeartRadio, which is my favorite, and wherever else you may be listening in the Omniverse tonight. I had a wonderful time this evening, and I can't wait to do it again tomorrow night with guest Jeffrey Seelman. It's going to be amazing. Don't forget, you guys, we are all in this together. Together we can make the world a little better, and together, my friends, we are Paradox Media. We can't do it without each other. Until next time, nighty-night, love and light. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend, and I will see you back here, same time, same place. Feel free to join us on our Skype after party at Tessa Thomas Peterson, or call 1-970-335-9596 to join our after party. Thanks so much again, Chris. It was awesome having you, and I want to have you back again if you are so willing to be my victim.
Absolutely, yeah, and we'll get Mel on this time so she can join in.
I would love that. All right.
Awesome.
Thanks so
But
much.
the
And I
chat
know
will send you their love, Tessa. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you so much again for joining us and sharing your new band. I'm so excited for this new endeavor, and I wish the best for you, Kicktoy, him, what's the other one? Me?
Me.
Me. Okay.
Yeah.
I got it right. What did she win?
You did.
All right. Good night, guys.
Front row seats to our first concert.
Sweet.